Hiya, and welcome back to Echo. Where this stream is half, oh god, what's going to happen next, and half shitposting. Okay, let's just hop right in. I think it's this one. He tries to walk away from me, but I kick him in his lower back and he goes stumbling forward onto his knees. He stays there, not bothering to move at all. I glare at the back of his head, breathing hard. How does it feel when it's happening to you? My voice shakes as I yell at him. I'm not used to doing something like this. It felt so gross, but at the same time, I feel like I'm finally teaching him a lesson. He's had this coming for so long. Why are you so mean to him? He doesn't answer, instead slowly getting up to his feet, wiping his face with the back of his hand. I told him to come out here to make one of his treasure hunts, just so I could confront him like this. It's not going how I thought it would, though. He's just standing there, not saying anything. Finally, he starts to walk away again, shoulders slumped, ears and tail down. I feel another burst of anger following him. I quickly overtake a slow pace and shove him as hard as I can in the back. His head snaps back before he falls flat on his stomach on the ground. He stays there for a long, long time while I stare at him. I can't remember what happened after that. Thursday. There's a dull throbbing in my head when I wake up, a remnant of the raging headache I'd had yesterday. I take some Tylenol when TJ goes into the bathroom so he doesn't see. I don't want to worry him. While he's taking one of his insanely long showers, I go down to the lobby to get some breakfast. When I come back into the room, balancing 2 plates full of bagels, bacon, and eggs, I'm surprised to see TJ already done. He's busy brushing his fur in the mirror, trying to tame the comical fluffed up look he has going on. I can't believe I forgot my shampoo. Look at how ridiculous I look. He holds his arms out to me and Jenna. Jenna grunts, not really paying attention as she types away furiously on her laptop. I think it's kinda cute. TJ smiles. You mean funny? No, you just look a little chubby. I smirk at TJ's mortified look as I set the plates down on the table, which forces Jenna to push her laptop aside for the moment. TJ opens a pack of jam and butter before spreading it neatly on a bagel cut in half. I watch as some of it sticks to the long fur around his mouth while he nibbles at it. He wipes it away with a napkin, only to start the process over again. It's so sad that you're going to spend all your time doing homework, Jenna. I'm taking 2 midterms the Monday we get back, so it's fairly necessary, TJ. Jenna doesn't even look up from her laptop as she responds, focused solely on whatever she's typing. I'm pretty sure she just shoved half a bagel into her mouth before she went back to work. TJ sits there quietly for a moment, taking another bite. You think you'll have time to do anything today? Jenna doesn't answer for a few seconds. You only sound the faint patter of the keyboard. Finally, she stops and looks up for the first time in probably an hour. I don't think so. I have a lot of work to do. Why don't you 2 go out and do something? We will. It would just be nice if you could go with us. I snort. Yeah, come with us to do more work at Janice's house again. TJ lowers his ears. Again? TJ takes another bite of his bagel, and it doesn't look like he's going to say anything. I sigh. Yeah, she kinda cornered him and got him to say he'd do more work. Jenna rolls her eyes and returns her attention back to the laptop. Janice taking advantage of people? Shocker. Jenna. TJ protests quietly. You know she used to give me some sort of sob story at the diner to get me to tip better. TJ frowns. Well, she does have a tough life, Jenna. Despite being annoyed at having to go back to Janice's, I find myself siding with TJ. I think you do whatever you can here to make money. It's probably hard to own a house as just a waitress. Yeah, well, maybe don't be a waitress in a shit crap town. She could at least try to find something else if it's that hard. TJ is still frowning, his ears down. I can tell he wants to say something more, but Jenna is an intimidating figure to try and argue with. It's quiet for another minute before Jenna sighs loudly. Sorry, I'm just a little stressed out right now. I have a lot of stuff to get done. It's alright. I wish we could help you out. Jenna laughs without any humor. I wish you could too. TJ falls silent, staring at the small piece of bagel held between his fingers. My phone buzzes in my pocket and I take it out, surprised to see a text from Carl. Yo! I stare at it for a moment. Huh. Hi. Who is it? TJ asks around his last bite of bagel, holding a napkin daintily in front of his mouth as he chews. Carl. Jenna's typing stops again. Really? How's he doing? I don't know. He seems okay. I realized then that I hadn't really had a chance to ask Jenna or anyone else what happened with Carl yesterday. Where was he? Leo said you guys found him. Yeah. Jenna pauses, staring at the screen of her laptop. What happened? I really don't know. Flynn found him in the crawl space, apparently. Crawl space? For some reason, I get chills running up my arms. What in the world was he doing down there? Jenna shakes her head. When I went down there, he was just sitting on the ground and Flynn told me to leave. I raise my brows and TJ gives me a confused look. He was standing in front of him so I couldn't see him, like if he was upset or something. What was he doing? Jenna shrugs. Flynn took him upstairs and we left after that. Was he like drunk or something? TJ seems to try and word it delicately. Jenna shrugs again, then turns back to her writing. He's always high, isn't he? I look back down at my phone. Want to hang out? Is he that high right now? It takes a second to figure it out. When I do, I look back up at TJ. What time does Janice want us over? We'll go in the evening, when it's not so hot. TJ looks down and lowers his ears again. Because I don't want TJ to get all apologetic again, I keep talking. Do you want to go hang out with Carl? TJ smiles. Yeah, that could be a lot of fun. I think Carl's going to have more moments. Alright then. Sure, TJ is also coming with me. For some reason, though, I can't shake the feeling that something is off. Stepping out into the parking lot, TJ immediately starts heading for the road while I pause by the car, holding my keys. TJ turns around. Are we walking? I look up the road toward the foothills of the mountains. Carl's house is an intimidating speck in the distance, barely visible through the heat haze. Oh, did you want to drive? I shield my eyes against the sun, only just over the mountains, but still promising a hellscape by noon. I mean, did you want to walk? I can see TJ's demeanor deflate a little bit as he starts walking back towards me in the car. We can drive. He smiles at me, but I sigh and shove my keys back into my pocket. No, we can go for a walk. It'll give us more time to talk anyway. Oh, okay. TJ smiles and waits for me to catch up to him before we start up the road. While I'm not looking forward to trekking back to Janice's house in the heat, I'd rather TJ be in an upbeat mood. We're pretty quiet on the way up. It isn't until we're passing Janice's house that I finally break the silence. Man, why did you have to say yes? I groan half teasingly, shoving my shoulder into his, sending him stumbling a little ways into the road. I'm sorry. Is it so hard to say no? Well, yeah, it definitely is. I sigh. It would be fine if we weren't on vacation with friends we might never see again. TJ sulks a bit. Don't say that. It's kinda true. I remember that the trip is already sort of ruined because of Flynn. Anyway, it's not that easy, Chase, especially when she's all smiling and expectant like that. You should stop letting people take advantage of you. TJ stares at the ground. Sorry. And stop apologizing. TJ flattens his ears and I realize that my tone might have been a bit too harsh. Okay, now I'm sorry. I was mostly joking, but it's frustrating to see you get pushed around. I don't really get pushed around. I ignore him. And get taken advantage of. She doesn't take advantage of me. Why do you think she only asks you for these things? He opens his mouth, but I don't let him answer. Because she knows you'll say yes. That's basically the definition of taking advantage of someone. I nudge him again with my shoulder, but he manages not to fall into the road this time. You gotta be a little more assertive. Stand up for yourself more often. TJ shoves his hands into his pockets. So just say no to people? Not just when it comes to saying no. Stand up to people being mean to you too. I don't mention Flynn, but I'm pretty sure he knows what I'm getting at. I try to give him an encouraging smile, but he doesn't look at me. It feels great, man. Once you do it once, you can't stop. TJ looks away, out into the desert. Sounds like you just want me to be mean to people. I shake my head. You can be nice and assertive at the same time. It's a good combination. TJ's quiet for a few minutes as we start the painful uphill portion of the trek towards Carl's mansion. I do it because I like to do it, you know? I'm starting to pant a little, my short, stubby legs already burning. I like to help her out. It feels good. Like, it makes you feel better about yourself. It makes me feel better about a lot of things. There's a sudden shift in his tone that cuts me off from saying anything else. It's a tone I'm not used to hearing from him, and I wonder if I went a little too far with the whole being assertive thing. I feel like there's a whole lot more going on under the surface, but now it doesn't feel like the time to delve into it. I try to think of something else to talk about, to change the subject. Anyway, maybe the apologizing thing is just part of your heritage. TJ laughs, dispelling the tension easily. Maybe. Well, if you do go back, at least you'll fit in with all the nice people. It's just a stereotype, and not all that true. There were mean people in Wasachua. Not like here, though. TJ nods. Yeah, not like here. We're quiet for a few more minutes, Carl's house promisingly close now. I'm distracted, looking up at it when TJ suddenly shoulder checks me right off the road, tripping me over my own feet and into the sagebrush. What the hell? I shout as I lay in the dirt, the dust cloud clearing to reveal a mortified TJ still standing on the side of the road. Oh my gosh, I didn't mean to knock you over. He catches himself, though the horrified look is still on his face. I stare up at him for a while, then burst out laughing. I see his tail and ears relax, his floofed out fur laying back down. He smiles, seemingly relieved. You're learning!
Self-voicing disabled.
He rubs his shoulder sheepishly. I guess so. We stand a good couple of minutes on Carl's doorstep, ringing the doorbell over and over. I can hear the heavy beat of some hip-hop song through the door and ground. I swear the windows look like they're about to bust with how much they're shaking. Finally, I send him a text, and that's when the music finally stops and the door swings open. As it does, TJ and I are blasted with a wave of pot with just a touch of booze lingering underneath. Carl grins at us, his eyes bloodshot and fur mussed up. What the fuck? Took you guys so long to get here. TJ frowns, rubbing his nose inconspicuously. I don't think I've ever seen Carl this far gone. I stare at him as he stares back at us, his grin never wavering. I finally break the silence. Are you okay? Carl suddenly gets a very serious look on his face. Chase. Gravely, he reaches out to put both of his paws on my shoulders. I have. He smirks, then sets his face sternly again. Never felt better. He brings me into a hug and whispers fiercely into my ear. I'm so glad you're here. He suddenly shoves me back and rolls on TJ, who cringes. Carl goes after him, sweeping him off his feet like the lynx is his brand new bride. Carl! Get inside before you get a heat stroke, fluff cheeks. I stand there on the doorstep as Carl takes the cat inside. TJ throwing me a wide-eyed look over the ram's broad shoulder. I swear, a lot of these Carl moments in the earlier days are fucking beautiful. I swear, they're all beautiful. I stare back, wondering if this was such a good idea before stepping in. Pot smell aside, the coolness of the mansion is a welcome relief to the quickly rising heat behind me. I'm just in time to see Carl toss TJ onto a two-cushion couch before flopping onto a bigger one across from it. He smiles at me, then pats the cushion next to him. I sit down on the last cushion, leaving a space between the two of us. I'm just a little worried about how handsy he's being right now. Carl shrugs and kicks up his feet on the cushion between us, tapping me with his hooves. We sit there for an agonizingly awkward 10 seconds before TJ clears his throat. So, Carl, how have you been? Carl rolls his head on his shoulders to snap his gaze in the direction of TJ, who gulps. TG. I've just been peachy. You get me? I swear. TJ's ears twitch. Yes? Super. Super. Supery. Carl giggles quietly to himself. He stares at the ceiling for a while. Continuing to tap me with his hooves. I look down and see that they're leaving hoof-shaped prints of white dust on my pants. Man, I'm glad you guys are here. I thought I was going to go crazy. How come? Carl interlocks his fingers behind his head. This house, man, you go crazy in it when no one's around. Flynn spent the night, but then he had to go to work. TJ seems to have run out of things to say, leaning back on the couch as his tail twitches around nervously. Carl doesn't seem to mind, though, staring peacefully at the ceiling. I exchange quick glances with TJ, who shrugs worriedly at me. I look at the massive flat screen. You want to watch something? Carl flicks his eyes to the TV. Have you seen the new Luce Lobo movie? I have to think about that. Not since last summer, I think. Yeah, I guess Flynn did stay the night. I haven't. It's the fucking shit, dudes. Carl sticks his legs in the air, swiveling on his butt before launching himself off the couch to land on his hooves awkwardly. He stumbles, falling into TJ's couch. The Lynx tries to steady him, but the ram is off before he can, grabbing the remote. Suddenly, he spins around and tosses his phone at me, and I have to lunge to catch it. Chase, please order us a goddamn pizza. I'm starving. What? I stare at his phone. He sighs loudly at me. The Giano's app. Duh. It takes me a second to find it in the sea of random game apps. Oh, so, what do you guys want? I'll shove anything from Giano's into my fat face. I stare at him. So, order anything. Okay. I end up letting TJ pick the toppings since he's the vegetarian. Once I've ordered the extra large pizza, Carl's already starting up the movie. I didn't know anyone delivered out here. Carl sits down with a beer in his hand, and I wonder if I should tell him not to drink anymore. Honestly, I don't know if the way he's acting is more due to the pot or the drink. He grins. That's what's so great about Giano's. They'll deliver anywhere if you pay. He takes a swig and belches. Price of delivery is the same as the fucking pizza, though. He stares at me before pointing at his beer. You want one? I glance at TJ, who's staring hard at the screen. Maybe I'll have one with the pizza. Me and TJ have some yard work to do for Janice. Carl wrinkles his nose. Lame. Do you want to go with us? Carl? Carl then gives us a massive shrug. I can tag along. Might not be able to do any real work, though. He pats his stomach. Swear to God, I'll hurl. That's fine. TJ smiles, but Carl seems to be watching the movie now, which is already a few minutes into the intro. The pizza doesn't arrive for another hour, and when it finally does, the slices are almost room temperature. Still, with the pizza, beer, and a movie, I start to kind of enjoy myself. By the end of it, Carl seems to have sobered up a little bit. Aww. I like it when Carl's high. He's hilarious. He turns off the TV and sighs, flat on his back on the couch at this point, his fetlocks across my lap. I'm fucking stuffed. I agree, and now I'm feeling even less inclined to go over to Janice's place. TJ's pulled out his phone, and now he's staring at it with his ears lowered. I'm about to ask him what's wrong, but that's when Carl nudges me with his leg. Hey, you guys want to play a game? I look at him cautiously. What kind of game? Carl looks around, then finds the row of 3 bottles on the ground next to the couch. 2 of them empty, 1 half empty. Never have I ever. TJ gives a nervous laugh. But Carl, I don't drink. Give it a try. I frown, giving Carl a look. Or we could just do 10 fingers. You don't have to drink for that one. Carl pouts. Wow, you're boring as hell today, Chase. Alright, we'll do both. You guys can do the 10 fingers bullshit. He struggles to sit up, burping again while he does. He leans over with a groan and picks up his beer. Okay, I'll go first. I hold up 10 fingers and TJ does the same, somewhat reluctantly. Never have I ever... Carl seems to think hard, then grins. Had sex. TJ's ears flatten and I glare at Carl. Really? We're going there already? Carl shrugs. What? That's the first question everyone asks. I lower a finger, still glaring. Isn't this a game about getting to know things about people that you don't already know about? I look over at TJ, not surprised to see all of his fingers still up, though he's blushing. I'm surprised you haven't, though. You've had girlfriends. Carl sneers at me. Turns out having to lift my own guts so they can suck me off turns them off. Never gone past that. So they still sucked you off. Blowjobs don't count. Yeah they do. It's called oral sex. Nah, man. I suddenly become very aware of the beet red link sitting across from us. I cough loudly and sit up straight, trying to think of something that's interesting, but still G-rated for TJ. Never have I ever been in a fight. A physical fight, I mean. Carl takes a drink. TJ's fingers stay up. Who did you fight? The fuck have you been? Remember Clint? Oh yeah. TJ starts to lower his finger too, then stops. Well, he mostly attacked us. We didn't really fight back, so it's not really a fight. Hold up! That went from 0 to 100 real fucking quick. Okay, what do we do? Carl shrugs. Me and Flynn have gotten into it before. Well, you already took a drink, so... I look over at TJ. Your turn. TJ looks off to the side, seeming to think hard. Never have I ever failed a test. TJ grins. I lower a finger, smirking, but Carl lets out a snort. Cute. The amount of disdain in his voice has me looking over at him, but he's already chugging down his beer. His burp seems to shake the couch. Alright, never have I ever kissed a dude. Carl! What? I've never actually seen you kiss Leo, so... Oh wait, maybe I have. Meh. He shrugs again. I lower a finger, rolling my eyes. TJ, of course, doesn't. As I'm trying to think of my own question, I suddenly feel something warm press against the side of my face. I blanch away out of instinct and turn to find Carl with his eyes closed and lips puckered. Carl! TJ sits on the couch, his face a portrait of comically cartoonish shock. Alright, now I have. Carl takes a big gulp of beer. I'm not sure how to react, but TJ's reaction is enough to make the whole thing seem funny, instead of like sexual harassment. I mean, you can't do it after the question's been asked, right? Carl puts his chin on a fist, fluttering his eyes in a way he probably thinks is seductive. You can look it up if you want. I shake my head, wiping the side of my face as I try to think. Never have I ever flown in an airplane. Carl and TJ both lower a finger. Really? That's crazy. I shrug. Hardly ever been out of the state in my life. That's tragic. It kind of is. And so it goes. The game continues for another 20 minutes. Most of the questions innocent enough. Still, I notice that every time TJ takes his turn, Carl gets more and more agitated. Never have I ever done drugs. Never have I ever been late to class. Never have I ever gotten less than an A- in a class. Still, I can tell that TJ's directing it mostly at me. Partly because he's being mischievous and partly because I think he's genuinely trying to figure me out. Carl's mood continues to sour though, and it all seems to build until the 6th round. Never have I ever been in a car accident. I lower a finger. You've crashed before? I mock glare at him. Why do you automatically assume it was my fault? Oh, sorry, my dad was driving and we got rear-ended. Oh. That's when I noticed that Carl hasn't spoken at all since the question was asked. I look over at him and see he's got the bottle resting on his knee as he watches TJ. I lean over to poke at him. You okay? He glances at me before turning back to TJ. You knew I'd been in an accident. TJ looks at Carl, confused. I did? Yeah. I told you at the motel when you first got here. Oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot about that. Yeah, okay. TJ continues to look confused. Carl stares at his lap for a while, and I start to wonder if the game is over. Then he looks up and stares at TJ, rubbing his chin. He seems to be thinking hard. Never have I ever... We wait. Carl smiles. Never have I ever killed someone. Oh my god. What follows is dead silence. Carl stares straight at TJ, still with a smile on his face. TJ still looks confused. That's a weird thing to say. Is it? TJ freezes up as if ice-cold water had been dumped over his head. I look at Carl slowly, but he's not looking at me at all. TJ's clenched paws rest in his lap, his face expressionless, almost, as we both realize what Carl's getting at. We sit in that silence for what feels like almost a minute. Carl finally breaks the frozen portrait that we're all in, leaning back into the back of the couch. You know, my life has been going downhill since that happened. TJ and I don't say anything, both of us watching Carl. School, grades, drugs, whatever. I don't know. Seems like it all started after whatever it was that happened. Carl looks pointedly at TJ again. Carl. My voice comes out shocked and bewildered. That seems to get through to him a little bit, his long ears flicking down briefly. TJ continues to stare back at him, and I'm reminded of how he looked when Flynn was having a go at him. Carl finally looks down, away from TJ. So I was in the crawl space the other day, and I found an old letter from Sydney. I don't say anything, neither does TJ. Carl waits a while, then goes on. I haven't opened it. It said it was a treasure hunt on the front. A treasure hunt? Sydney absolutely loved treasure hunts. He was always making them in his spare time. They were usually pretty bad, and the prizes at the end were always pretty awful. It would always take some convincing on his part to get us to do one. I don't know why I have it, but it's made me... Carl stops talking and closes his eyes, pressing himself deeper into the soft cushions of the couch. Maybe if we knew what happened, we could fix some of our problems. TJ finally stands up, and Carl's eyes snap open when he does. I watch him, too, having no idea what he's about to do. Because of the look on his face, I wonder if he's about to actually do something violent. Attack Carl or something. His expression is dark, not like I've ever seen him, even when Flynn was yelling at him. Instead, though, he just stands there for a few moments, staring at Carl. Carl looks away again, his ears lowered. Self-improvement starts with realizing what the actual problem is, Carl. That didn't sound like TJ at all. Not even the voice. Carl seems shocked as well as he finally looks up at the links. Stop blaming others and start blaming yourself. His voice is calm and smooth, but ice cold. TJ turns on his heels and stalks toward the door, his fur fluffed out. I finally snap out of it and stand up as TJ opens the door. I take one last look at Carl as he's slumped on the couch, his head down. I'll call you later, okay, Carl? Carl doesn't say anything. So with that, I hurry out the door that TJ left open. I catch up to the links about 100 yards down the road, trying to match his brisk pace. It's late afternoon at this point, and the heat hits me like a ton of bricks. Sweat already threatens to drip off my chin as I approach TJ. He slows down when he hears me panting, letting me catch up. We walk in silence for a good 15 minutes, and I almost jump when TJ finally speaks up. Can you believe he did that? I take a few deep breaths, gathering the time I need to form a response. I think he was just really high and drunk. TJ shakes his head. He knew what he was saying. Sure, but his inhibitions are down. TJ isn't as upset as I thought he would be. At least not in the way I thought he would be. Instead, he seems more angry than anything. I think it's because he's been talking to Flynn. Who knows what he's been saying to him? That could definitely be the case. TJ finally sighs and stares at the ground, his ears falling. I can tell he's about to finally start crying, so I put my arms around his shoulders. Hey, it's okay. He was seriously drunker than I've ever seen him. He's not going to remember any of this. He doesn't look up. TJ, you are a huge reason why we've all stuck together at this point. TJ doesn't say anything, and I see his eyes watering up. I could be making it worse, but I give his shoulder another squeeze. You're the glue, and like you said, Carl's blaming his own problems on everyone else. This has nothing to do with you. TJ sighs, leaning against me a little. I take this as a good sign and nudge him. Listen, let's get to Janice's place and get those chores out of the way. After that, we can get some ice cream at Ray's, okay? Alright. TJ lets out a small smile, a small laugh, and we continue down the road for another 10 feet like that. Then he suddenly pulls away from me, faces me, and hugs me tight. He buries his face in my chest, and I feel his fingers clench into the back of my shirt. He holds me like that for a long time. We get to Janice's house for a good half an hour later, me covered in sweat, TJ airing out his shirt. It's 5 at this point, but the sun is still pounding down on the back of my head like a lead weight. Janice opens the door almost the second we knock, and I can tell immediately that something's off. First of all, she's got no pants on. Don't worry, I'm just adding more responses to random shit. Game. Images. Sprites. Because we're going to experience it at least once more, so why not? Group. I literally just saw it. Like, there it is. But, like, that's literally what I'm thinking right now. Like, what the fuck is this? I catch a glimpse of her large white panties before I snap my eyes back up, staring hard at the coyote's face. I can't see TJ, but by the funny way he's breathing, I'm pretty sure he's noticed as well. Janice spreads out her hands, grinning. Well, I'll be. You made it! We gawk at her for another few seconds before TJ finally squeaks out. Yeah, of course. Janice suddenly steps forward towards the lynx and cups his face in her hands. I keep my eyes up, trying to focus on her face. She squishes TJ's face to the point where his lips purse out a little bit. You, TJ, are a lifesaver. You know that? She says it sincerely, and I can see TJ trying to pull back. Unfortunately, it also looks like the coyote has a good grip on his face because everything but his head moves. Thank you, Janice. TJ tries to speak from his squashed face. Janice, what did you want us to do today? I break in, hoping to move her attention away from ripping TJ's cheeks off. She seems to really be enjoying the tufts of fur there. Oh, Chase, you're here too? Yeah, we're gonna work on it together. Well, alright, how about I head out there and show you two? My eyes flick down to her bottom half for just a second, and I immediately regret it. There's no way around it. You wanna get dressed first? Janice looks down. Oh, that! Well, I've just got to apologize now. I was in the middle of getting ready for work. I just forgot what I was doing. I glance at TJ, then quickly back at the coyote. Oh, well, we can wait. Nonsense. It'll only take a sec. I'm left open-mouthed, following the coyote. I'm left open-mouthed, following the coyote automatically as TJ follows closely behind me. A quick glance around reassures me that there isn't anyone around at the moment, but if someone does come around... Janice marches us out to the back to the few wooden remnants of the shed we'd moved earlier. She points at the ground. I want you two to dig a hole right here. TJ stays just slightly behind me, as if using me to shield Janice's shameless modesty. A hole? Yep, in a rectangle from here to here. Janice marks a line in the dirt with her foot before walking about 5 feet in the other direction and making another line. And 3 feet wide, at least 3 feet deep, if not more. I nod through her instructions, just trying to get through this as quickly as possible. Okay, what are we doing this for? Janice stops, scratching the back of her head. A pool. Gonna have a pool back here. A pool? Yeah, a nice little pool. She grins at us and I quickly nod at her. Okay, we'll get right to work. Shovel's in the garage, right? I'm doing everything I can to get her back inside. Yep, need anything else? I can make you lemonade before I leave. No, we'll just get water if we need it. Well, alright. No need to finish it today if you can't. I know how hot it is. Janice turns to leave, but not before reaching out and pinching TJ's cheek almost viciously. He squints his eyes, ears flattening as he just stands there and takes it. And with that, she hums her way back to the house. I wait until I hear the door close. Oh my god, she's gone insane. TJ stays quiet, staring at the spot on the ground that Janice marked out. Seriously, maybe we should go. No. She's probably just having another off day or something. I shake my head. And this is definitely not a pool. TJ kicks at the dirt and I shiver as I see a small spider skitter across the ground. Either she's lost it or we're doing almost nothing here. Or we're digging a grave. Oh, come on, Chase. This was a bad idea. I hear the garage door opening and shut my mouth. A car engine starts up, and then I see an old, rusty white sedan pull out of the driveway. Janice waves at us and blows a kiss, which I'm pretty sure is directed at TJ. Then she peels off like she's drag racing to the diner that's less than a mile away. So who do you think she's on her way to murder? Yes. So who do you think she's on her way to murder? Stop. I look back at TJ. You think she even put her pants on? TJ shudders and looks back at the ground. Let's just get this done. Then I promise I won't do any more chores for her, okay? I sigh. Alright, just remember whose fault this is if it ends up... Alright, just remember whose fault this is if this ends up being our grave. The work is tougher than I thought it would be. We both start at opposite ends of the little trench thing we're making. Janice said we should do more than 3 feet if we could, but if this whole thing is bullshit, which I'm sure it is, then I'm not doing any more than the minimum. I'm at least glad to see TJ returning back to his cheerful, bubbly self. We even almost get into a dirt-clawed war. That comes to a quick end when I hit TJ in the thigh with a rock-filled one. About 2 hours later, the sun is comfortably low, and we're a little over halfway done. It's at that point that I get a text message from Carl. I take a quick glance at my phone, seeing a one-word apology of sorry. I look at it for a while until TJ finally peers up. Everything okay? I debate whether or not to tell him, now that he's in such a good mood. It's hard to tell exactly what will make TJ feel better or worse, I've come to realize. Still, I think he can tell who it is probably from already, judging by how slanted back his ears are. It's from Carl, just says sorry. Ah. TJ stops digging, pressing his shovel into the darker, moist dirt at the bottom of the trench. That's it? That's it. Are you going to respond? I don't know, should I? TJ starts digging again. Yeah. TJ tilts his head down. I need to apologize too. Now that seems more like TJ. Well, what should I say? TJ stops digging again and looks up at me. I look up at him expectantly. Okay, so I'm trying to be more assertive, like you said. Uh-oh? I didn't expect him to say that. Is that why... TJ looks down, so I stop myself. Is that why he'd acted so strange at Carl's mansion? Sorry, never mind. What were you saying? So I'm just going to say this. I was thinking about that treasure hunt Carl found. For a moment, I don't know what he's talking about. Oh, the thing he found in the crawl space. I was thinking. TJ leans on the shovel's handle, looking away. Thinking that we should open it together. Okay. I say it slowly, realizing how delicate of a topic this is. Is there a reason why you want to open it? TJ sighs deeply, looking up at the deep red and orange sky. I always feel like things happen for a reason, and we were just talking about finding closure yesterday. Okay, so I feel like this might be a way to do it, maybe. Read what he had to say, maybe go on one of his last hunts. TJ swallows hard. I can sort of see where he's coming from. Sydney always wrote stupid riddles and stories with his treasure hunts. It might mean something to read something he wrote so long ago. Okay. I keep coming up short with what I want to say. Again, I can see why TJ might think this is the answer, but I'm not so sure. Well, I guess I can ask Carl about it. Did you want everyone there? Maybe. Maybe just us. We can let the others read it later if they want. I don't think Flynn... I nod quickly. Yeah, that makes sense. So you, want to do that tomorrow? See if we can do it tonight. We've only got a few days left and this is making me nervous. TJ gives a tight laugh. Yeah, Sydney's treasure hunts could be pretty elaborate. Oh yeah, definitely. Are we starting to be able to talk about him normally again? Maybe TJ is right about this. Okay, I'll text him back and ask if I can call him. Okay. Takes me a little bit to figure out how to word TJ's request. Hey man, can TJ and I come over and talk? While we wait for Carl's response, TJ abruptly looks back up at me. Are you and Carl, friendly with each other? Huh? I mean, how he kissed you. What? No! I laugh. That was just Carl being drunk. Okay. TJ goes back to digging, his ears twitching around. I grin. What? Are you jealous? No! He says it way too fast and loud. This boy's gay. He's totally gay. Hey, if you want to give me a kiss, I don't mind. TJ doesn't respond, instead focusing hard on the ground he's digging up. Aw, if you're shy, I can do it instead. I see his eyes widen, but he still doesn't say anything. I make kissy sounds at him, and that's when he flings some dirt up at me, smattering my pants with dark brown spots. Aw, come on. I see TJ smirk as he goes right back to work. I'm thinking about picking up another dirt clod, but that's when my phone buzzes again. Okay. We walk slowly up the length of Carl's driveway, our shadows covering its entire length in the light of the sunset. TJ's starting to drag his feet again as we get closer to the door, and I stop to look back at him. You okay? Yeah, I'm good. You sure? We don't have to do this today. We can come by tomorrow. TJ shakes his head, taking a swig of water from a water bottle we'd bought from the convenience store on the way here. No, I'm just a little tired. It's been a long day. Yeah. I wait for TJ to catch up, then match his stride as we make our way up the sidewalk, then up the steps to the door. TJ doesn't do anything, instead just gripping into his water bottle, making the plastic creak. I wait another second, then reach out across TJ to press the doorbell. A faint, fancy chime emanates from behind the door for a few seconds, followed by the clopping of Carl's hooves on the wooden floor. There's a pause once he reaches the door, and I imagine him hesitating as he reaches for the door handle. A second later, though, it swings open, revealing a very bleary, red-eyed Graham. Carl blinks at us a few times through the bright orange sun behind us. Finally, he steps aside, opening the door wider. Hey guys. There's a pause as I wait to see if TJ will say anything. When he doesn't, I clear my throat and step forward through the door. Hey man, you okay? Not really. I don't say anything in return, instead spreading my arms out in the cool air of the mansion. I turn around and wait as TJ steps through the doorway, the links framed by the golden sunlight, the fine hairs of his fur lit up like white hot wires. I see Carl's hand that's not on the door sort of twitch, like he's grabbing something in the air. Hey. TJ stands next to me, looking back at Carl. Hello. Carl rubs vigorously, rubs out his arm. Listen. Carl pauses. I get the idea that he's wanting TJ to tell him that everything's okay so he doesn't have to explain anything. That would definitely make things easier, but he doesn't say anything, just watches the ram. Carl rubs behind his head for a second, looking back out the door. I'm not sure why it's so hard for him to apologize to TJ. I thought it was weird that Carl had apologized to me instead of the Lynx in the first place. Listen, Carl takes in a big shuddery breath, blowing it out loudly. I was really messed up earlier. I wasn't thinking right. TJ continues to watch Carl silently. His ears are up at least. Carl stutters and stumbles over a few more syllables before he continues. And I just wasn't thinking straight. He scuffs the hardwood floor loudly with a hoof. And I don't think you did anything like that. I was just pissed off. TJ is quiet for a few more seconds, but Carl doesn't offer anything more. So, why were you angry? Carl sighs, then leans his head back against the door, his horns knocking loudly against it. You said some shit that I'm ass-hurt about, okay? It wasn't your fault. TJ folds his arms, looking down. Well, what was it I said? Carl shakes his head. Stupid shit. I mean, stupid because of me. Stuff about school, car accidents. Just brought up old stuff for me. Oh. But I don't think you ever did anything like I said. I was just being a huge dick. Sorry. His voice breaks a little at the end and he quickly looks at the floor, his ears down. TJ is again quiet. I think about changing the subject now that the apology is out of the way, but TJ speaks first. Thanks, Carl. And I'm sorry I brought stuff up like that. I'll try to remember in the future. Carl shakes his head, looking back up. Not your fault. We stand there awkwardly for a few more seconds. I guess I thought maybe Flynn had been saying stuff to you. That's why you said it. Huh? Oh. Carl's non-denial hangs heavy in the air. I haven't seen Flynn in days, and I am wondering what he's been up to in that time. I'll have to ask Carl when TJ isn't around. As of now, though, I want to change the subject because things are getting awkward. So, TJ had an idea about the scavenger hunt thing. Carl looks back at me as if just now realizing that I'm there. Scavenger hunt? Oh yeah, the treasure hunt. TJ scratches his arm, looking embarrassed. Sydney's treasure hunt? TJ scratches harder at his arm, looking more and more flustered, so I jump in. Yeah, we were thinking about actually doing it too. Maybe find some closure. Carl frowns. Really? TJ stops scratching at his arm, his ears coming back up. Yeah. I believe things happen for a reason. That you found it now while we're all here means something, I think. And I mean, it's really old. You think any of that stuff would be out there right now? Maybe. But I guess I'm not really looking to find anything. It's a thing we can do while we remember him. I think it's a good way to find closure. I try to back TJ up under Carl's somewhat bewildered stare. The ram strokes his chin. I guess that sort of makes sense. I mean, if you're okay with doing it. TJ squares his stance, looking up. I am. It's been so long feeling this way, I feel like this might be our last chance to do something. Carl looks over at me. I nod, indicating I feel the same way. I don't fully understand this new direction in TJ either, but I sure as hell supported him. Well, okay then. I'll go grab it. You want to just open it now? Let's go to the motel or something, with Jenna there too. Okay. Carl finally shuts the door before making his way to the stairs. TJ seems to deflate then, his shoulders hunching back in. That wasn't so bad. I mumble to him once I think Carl's out of earshot. Yeah, it was okay. We stand there awkwardly as we wait. The whole situation is so strange. Carl comes back with a crumpled-looking white envelope in his hands. TJ eyes it, the fur standing up on the back of his neck. So, you dudes want to drive back to the motel, or... Actually, we didn't drive. Carl drops his hands to his sides. Are you reeking serious? I can't walk in that heat. TJ did. I tug up some of the fur on the lynx's neck slowly to show Carl. TJ actually jumps a bit and I quickly let go. I want to ask him what's wrong, but Carl keeps talking. Man, I'm going to smell like shit once we get there. Sun's almost gone anyway. Carl smirks at me. I sweat walking in the wintertime. You can take a shower at the motel. Carl blows his breath out loudly, frowning. Okay, but I'm going to put on more deodorant before we go. The walk back isn't so bad. Carl makes it out to be a lot worse than it is with all his gasping and wiping his face constantly. TJ gets a text from Jenna to meet at the diner instead of the motel since she's going there for dinner anyway. Once we walk in, Carl lets out a gasping groan of relief that turns a few heads. Jenna looks up from a corner booth and waves at us. I wave back and start making my way over. Go into the bathroom, gotta wipe my pits. TJ makes a sour face as he follows me to the table. Jenna scoots in so we can slide in next to her. So what's this all about? Carl found a treasure hunt that Sydney made. Jenna toys with her brown leather purse, staring at it. Okay, like a map or something? A letter. What are you going to do with it? Well, I look over at TJ, but he doesn't say anything, instead looking out the window at the sunset. We're thinking about doing it. You're thinking about going on the treasure hunt? Yeah. I mean, Jenna pauses, clearly trying to choose her words carefully. I mean, would there be anything left of it at this point? It would have to be at least 11 years old by now. Jenna looks over at TJ, studying his reaction. He doesn't give her anything, though, still staring out the window. I spread my hands out on the table, instantly regretting it as I feel the grease slide around under my pads. We're seeing it more as a closure sort of thing, a send-off. We're not really expecting to find something. TJ finally looks back at us. He made it for us, so I feel like we should do it. For him. Jenna stares back down at her purse. I guess Flynn won't be involved? No. And Leo? He's going to be busy for most of the week. I don't think he'd really want to anyway. Why not? Now TJ looks like he's trying to choose his words carefully. He pretends like it never happened. I don't want to bring it back up for him. No one says anything else until Carl shows back up, the fur on his head and face a little wet. Hey, Jenna. Carl. Jenna nods at him as he sits across from me. He reaches across the table, snatching up a menu from the metal holder in the center. I'll pay if anyone wants something. Jenna curls a lip in disgust, but I'm starving, so I start browsing the menu as well. TJ goes back to staring out the window, and I can see his ears twitching around. So, where's this treasure hunt thing? Carl looks up and sees that Jenna's staring at him. Huh? Oh, I have it. I'm gonna order real quick though if Chase is ready. I nod, and Carl waves his menu at Janice, who quickly bustles our way with a tray of glasses of water. She's wearing pants now, but there's definitely still something off about her. Her eyes are wide. Her smile is more like a grimace as she sets down our glasses and straws. She takes our orders well enough, though, and Jenna waits patiently as Carl and I order a meal and TJ gets a smoothie. Carl methodically tears off one end of the wrapper of his straw before he blows out the other end, shooting the rest of the wrapper at me. I flinch and try to catch it, failing as it falls to the floor. Jenna clears her throat loudly. So, where is it? Carl looks at her, the straw still in his mouth. Huh? Oh, right. Carl reaches into his pocket, then pulls out the envelope. He pushes it onto the table, face up. There's writing in black marker on the front. Treasure Hunt number 7. We all stare at it. Should I read it? Carl sets a hand down on the letter. Or someone else? Carl's eyes briefly flick over to TJ, then quickly look back down at the letter. TJ's hand comes up, then surreptitiously scratches at an ear before letting it fall back into his lap. It does seem appropriate that TJ open it, but if he doesn't want to... Carl looks just as hesitant, so I finally reach out and gently slide it from under his hand. I can read it. No one objects, so I open it carefully, not wanting to rip anything as I pry the adhesive apart. Okay, that's loud. A chill goes up my spine for some reason. A strange, surreal vision comes to my mind's eye as inky blackness leaking out of the envelope, spilling slowly across the table. I can feel it too, like a cold draft is wafting from inside. I pause, feeling an emptiness in my chest. What the hell? I give my head a small shake, breaking out of the trance. I guess it's only natural I feel this way. That's Sydney's handwriting on a letter sealed after he licked it. He loved making these treasure hunts. It's really sad, so it makes sense that I'd feel this sudden drop in mood. I swallow as I continue to pry it open, the feeling getting worse and worse as I do. When it's finally fully opened, the feeling slowly subsides. Tension in the air seems to melt away too, like the whole town just let out a sigh of relief. I look up for a moment at the others, wondering if they're feeling the same way. It's hard to tell as they're all looking intently down at my hands. I quickly look down again and stick my fingers inside, feeling a piece of paper catch on a pad. Gently, I press down on it and slowly slide it from the envelope. It's bright white copy paper, folded once in half. It's been creased so long that it's starting to part at the fold, in the middle part so that the edges are barely holding it together. Black blotches bleed through the paper, probably written in the same thick marker that was used for the envelope. I gently unfold it, not wanting to rip it apart more than it already has been. The big blocky black letters are sloppy and childish. Even though it's only a few sentences, it covers the entire page. The last few words trail off into a tiny, almost ineligible scrawl. It droops off the side of the paper as Sydney realized he'd ran out of room in the end. Okay, I clear up my throat, then start reading aloud. Welcome to treasure hunt number 7. Aw, it's misspelled. Welcome to treasure hunt number 7. This is the biggest one so far, and it took a long time. So no cheating this time. Talk about you, Carl and Chase. No skipping steps. First clue. These things fly really high. It's in the home with my comb. It's in their home with my comb. Chase, you don't have to do this one. I know you hate it. You'll see if you figure it out. Good luck, guys. Sid. I feel my throat close up just a little bit as I stare down at his name. He always wanted to go by Sid, but it never stuck, so none of us ever did. It just didn't suit him. I look back up at the others. Carl is still staring at the paper, and TJ's looking out the window again. Jenna has a hand up to her mouth, staring as well. Wow. Then she wipes at her eyes, and I look away. I guess I never really thought about how this might affect Jenna. She and Sydney never really got along because of the way he treated TJ. But still, he was just a kid like the rest of us. Carl lets out a ragged cough. That whole cheating thing was totally you, Chase, not me. I look up at Carl, raising a brow. You're the one that told me to do it. Carl smirks. And you're the one that did it. What did you do? TJ asks quietly from his corner, finally looking away from the window. Well, Sydney liked to reuse certain hiding spots. I mean, there were only so many places he could use. Yeah, and Chase went straight to Sydney's mailbox and ruined the whole thing like a boss. I was like 8. Turns out it was the last spot and he got the prize. Carl makes finger quotes around the last word. Yeah, one of those plastic clapper things we used to get in elementary school for reading a lot. He was so mad. Yeah. I remember dropping it on the ground because of how lame it was. I also remember Sydney crying, but I'm not going to bring that up. Carl seems to have at least lightened the mood, though, and Jenna stopped wiping at her eyes. I'm starting to think TJ was right about this whole closure thing. I know where he's talking about for this one, though. I tap the paper with a finger. Yeah, it's the birdhouse. Birdhouse? Where's that? The forest. TJ sits up straighter, ears up as well. The birdhouse is on one of those trees close to the road. Oh, well, I never went in there because of all the stuff that would get in my fur. TJ looks back out the window, the sun gone now. The clouds in the sky are still tinged red. You guys want to do it tonight? Really? It's getting kinda late and we still gotta eat. Carl looks eagerly at the front counter, through the small rectangle that led to the kitchen. We can use Chase's car. Besides, it might be kind of fun in the dark. TJ adds the last bit meekly. Hell no. As long as you guys know where it is, it shouldn't be a problem. I gently fold the letter back up and start tucking it back into the envelope. What did he mean by saying you didn't have to do that one, Chase? I look up at TJ, then back down with the letter as I gently press the lid of the envelope closed. I thought I saw something and got scared one time. It was a long time ago, though. At least that's what I think he was talking about. Jenna clears her throat, seeming to have collected herself. I think I remember that. My parents told me about it. I frown. Really? I didn't like the idea of that. What did you see? I shrug. A person in the trees. A hanging person. Oh. TJ shudders. So hell fucking no to going there tonight then. Sorry for the F word, Tej. It's fine. I saw a lot of things as a kid. I'm not going to tell them how I'm definitely still scared of that place. Besides, TJ looks really eager to start this, so I'm not going to ruin it for him. But really, that's not what's bothering me right now. I look down at my hands as I try to work out a timeline in my head. When was it that incident happened in the forest? I thought it'd been 10 at the time since that was when I'd started going to a psychiatrist. And I'd started going because of that. But that would be impossible, because here we are. A plate with a massive burger and steak fries lands in front of my face. The big coyote sets a smoothie down for TJ and an even bigger veggie burger down for Carl. Hey Janice, is Julian working today? Janice smiles at TJ. No, dear, he's only here when I'm not. He'll be in tomorrow if you're looking to find him. Okay, thanks. Janice then clutches her tray to her chest and watches us for a moment. Listen, Chase and TJ, why don't you come by my house again when you get the chance? I look up at Janice and see she's got a strange look on her face, confused and worried looking. What's wrong, Janice? TJ's voice is full of concern. I am so scared right now. Did we do something wrong? No, you did everything wonderfully. I just want to have a talk about the way I acted the past few days. Janice lets out an exasperated sounding laugh. Not really sure what came over me, just now realizing how strange it all was. She glances at Carl. But we can talk about it later, in person. Enjoy your dinner. She bustles off, tray still held against her body. Carl watches her go, stuffing a few fries into his mouth. What was that about? The way Janice had looked at Carl makes me think she doesn't want him knowing about what had happened. I think she just feels bad for making us work so much. I look over meaningfully at TJ. Yeah, maybe. TJ quickly starts sucking on a straw. Well, she should. Jenna's sitting back in the booth, having taken out her brush to start grooming the fur on her face and head. I inconspicuously slide my plate a little further away from her. Well, once we finish, we can go get my car and head to the forest. As I lift my burger and take a bite, I look over at the counter where I see Janice leaning over her notepad. Her shoulders are shaking, and it takes me a moment to realize that she's crying. Aww. The forest is actually just a patch of trees on the side of the road near Leo's house. While it's technically small, it still covers several acres, which is enough to get lost in. The sky's a soft blue now, just enough light to see by. It won't be long before that won't be the case, though. I pull off to the side of the road in the spot where I think the birdhouse might be. It's been well over a decade since the last time I've seen it. This is probably where the treasure hunt is going to end, considering the time that's passed. The birdhouse probably isn't even there anymore. We all step out of the car into the warm evening air. Carl folds his arms over the hood of the car and grins at me. See? Even with the sun gone, it's roasting. At least you can drive me home now. Yeah. I look over at Leo's house, but his truck is gone. TJ catches my glance. I might tell him what's going on if we find something and you want him to join us. TJ picks at his claws. It's alright. I give him a quick side hug as we step up to the edge of the trees. I can see why TJ doesn't want to tell Leo about this. He was right about Leo pretending it didn't happen. I can't imagine it would go well if we told him about drudging up old Sydney scavenger hunts. So, where is it? Jenna looks into the empty ditch between us and the forest, wrinkling her nose at the old scraps of garbage inside. Well, Carl looks up and down the tree line, squinting. It kind of looks different now, but I think it's about here. It's only like 10 feet in, right? Carl looks at me. That sounds about right. We can fan out and check all the trees that close to the road. TJ jumps across the ditch lightly, making much more lightly than the clumsy hop I execute right after. I land unevenly on the opposite incline and windmill my arms as I lean back. Carl starts laughing before I even fall, but TJ reaches out and grabs me by the shirt, yanking me back up from the ditch. I fall into him awkwardly and quickly step back, brushing myself off, even though there isn't anything on me. Are you okay? I'm fine, thanks. I glare over at Carl, who's still laughing. Did you even try, man? He leaps over easily, clearing the ditch along with a few more feet. That's not fair. I'm an otter. Don't let that hold you back from achieving your dreams. Jenna elects to delicately step around the garbage before climbing up the other side. It's okay, you swim better than any of us, Chase. I sigh. Thanks, TJ. I turn back to the forest, which is much darker as the light struggles to filter through the branches and leaves. Well, let's start before it gets too dark. As we spread out amongst the trees, I'm struck with how quiet it is. The only sound is the crunch of our feet on the dead vegetation, and that starts to fade away as the others move further away from me. I zigzag through the trees, trying to get a look at their full circumferences. From what I remember, the birdhouse was a plain old wooden thing that hardly stood out from the trunk that it was attached to. We might not see it even if we were looking right at it. While it's been a long time, walking between these trees does bring back some memories. I stopped coming here after what happened to Sydney, mainly because this was his favorite place to hang out. He liked to play capture the flag here. I can still remember how fast he was, how I'd only catch glimpses of his tail between the trees before he disappeared with the flag. His team won almost every time. The summer of 2002 was the last time we played. Sydney had even been getting along better with TJ then. That might have been the best summer of my life until it happened. It was almost like Echo saw us having too much fun and wanted to end it. For good. Sydney had still been a dick, though. The image of Sydney whipping TJ mercilessly with the towel we used as a flag comes to mind. I moved closer to the edge of the tree and climbed before slanting back in again. Looking up between the branches, I see that the sky is a darker blue now. Pretty soon, it'll be pitch black. It was about this light the last time that I was here. I'd come alone and I was 10, maybe 9. It's hard to remember now, but I think I'd gone here because I was sad. I had good memories of the forest, so I thought going there might make me feel better. I was standing in the forest, waiting to see if I did feel better. It didn't happen, so I'd sat down on the leaves and started crying. I was there for maybe 5 minutes before I heard some branches creaking above me. I looked and saw feet swinging around. This confused me, so I stood up and backed away, staring up as I slowly realized I was seeing a fox being hung by its neck. Even now, I can remember the way he looked, his overalls and his white shirt. His head had been tilted down toward me, his tongue lolling out of his muzzle, his eyes blank. I can even remember what looked like pinkish red blood on the white fur of his chin. Then I tripped over a branch, and when I looked back up, he was gone. I can't remember much after that except that I'd gone home and told my parents. That ended with me seeing a doctor. They never found anything wrong with me, at least anything that might relate to seeing things. In the end, we were told that sometimes kids hallucinate, that it would stop as I got older. I hugged myself, feeling cold and a little scared now that I've brought up that old memory. While I know that I was at the age where kids hallucinate most often, I still can't get out of my mind how real it had been. Still, that's not exactly what's giving me the chills right now, because I just realized that had been the summer after Sydney passed. That's why I was sad, because I remembered how happy the summer before that had been. So what Sydney wrote doesn't make any sense. Unless I'm going crazy. A creak behind me makes me jump and I whirl around, eyes scanning the branches, terrified of what I might find. But there's nothing there. Just branches creaking in the wind. It's the Slender Man. The Slender Man's there. I stare for a while longer before a shout from afar down the line of trees makes me jump. I found it! It's TJ's voice, high-pitched and excited. I shake myself out of my trance and start jogging towards where the lynx's voice came from. Maybe I've confused things and I'm just remembering things incorrectly. It's the only thing that makes sense. As I come up on the lynx, Carl and Jen are already there, standing around a tree trunk. Sure enough, a little wooden birdhouse is tied to the trunk with rusty wires. I can't believe it's still here. It does look pretty beat up. Jenna points to a little wooden plug in the opening. It's closed up. I think it's been closed this whole time. I don't know, maybe. TJ pokes at the plug with a claw, grips around the edges with all his claws before gently pulling the wooden cork-like thing out. A thick, sticky-looking trail of cobwebs follows it. We all stare into the dark hole that's revealed. Chase, want to reach in there? I'm sure there aren't any spiders. I shiver involuntarily. I don't really want to either. Jenna sighs before pushing past TJ. Bending over, she picks up a twig and twists it and sticks it into the hole before swirling it around. When she pulls it back out, it's like she's made a cotton candy cone of spider webs. She drops that, then takes out her phone, turning on the flash before holding it up to the opening. Well? We all wait anxiously for her to say something. There is something here. With that, she reaches in with just her fingers. After a few crinkling sounds, she pulls out a Ziploc bag, and inside is a folded up piece of paper and a blue comb. Holy shit. No way. Well, no one ever comes back here, so I guess it makes sense. He actually put a comb in there to make it rhyme. Jenna makes a few jerking motions away from the birdhouse to get rid of the cobwebs. She looks around and sticks it out to me. Since you read the last one, okay. I glance at TJ, but he doesn't make any indication that he might want it. The bag is covered in what looks like dirt and cobwebs. A few clumps of both dangle from the bottom. I open it carefully, and when I pull out the paper, I can tell that it's been wet a few times. It's a little crumpled, but when I unfold it, the water damage isn't bad enough that I can't read it. Still, the paper immediately splits in two this time, and I have to hold them up together as I read it. It's dark to the point where I have to have Carl hold up his phone to give me some light. Good job, but that was a little easy, right? Next up we will find out how brave you are. I know this was already a scary test for Chase, but that doesn't count. Do you really remember? Get a flashlight and make sure Leo is with you. Here it is. Stay in school. It will be cool. We'll have fun in 301. I hope you don't die. Sid. We're all quiet for a moment, then TJ giggles. I look at him, but he's covering his mouth with a hand so I can't see him smiling. That's not really a riddle, is it? I smile. Go easy on him. He was a kid. Sorry. So the old school in room 301. I assume that's what he meant by a test of courage. Shoot! He went in there all by himself? I wouldn't even do that now. Yeah, that is a little weird. The feeling that something isn't right grows inside my chest. Well, we have to break the law to get in there. We'd be trespassing. TJ glances at TJ because we all know the Lynx wouldn't dare break the law. Besides, it's getting late. Maybe we can go check it out tomorrow. One of us can go in for you, TJ. TJ looks up at the sky where stars are starting to twinkle through the branches. Well, if we're going to trespass, we should do it at night, right? Jenna's mouth falls open. What? TJ looks flustered. Break the law. Break the law. I mean, we don't have all that much time left here, so we should probably get as much of it done as we can. So, you're okay with breaking the law? Well, yeah, if it means we can finish this. We all stare at him. I don't know what else to say. I just really want to get this done. It feels right. We're quiet for a moment before Carl claps his hands together. Well, alright then. Let's go. I've still got a few hours before I'm going to bed. Jenna sighs loudly. Alright, but I want to get back before 10 so that I can finish my papers. Yeah, don't worry. Onward. Carl marches ahead of us, taking a running leap across the dish. I look at TJ, who's still looking fidgety again. Hey, we'll finish this before we have to leave, okay? TJ gives me a small smile. Okay. Ooh, that's creepy. Carl says that a cop still patrols Echo randomly at least once a night. Because of that, we let Jenna sit out in the car and keep watch. If someone shows up, she'll text us, which should give us time to get out the back of the school. It'll still look suspicious as hell, but as long as we're not caught on the property and have some sort of excuse, we should be fine. At least that's what Carl says. We stand there in the front of the door, and I notice that a couple chains hang loosely off the door, no lock to be found. Well, at least that hasn't changed. Carl shrugs. Teenagers break in all the time. No point in putting a lock back on every time. That's some bullshit. Carl gives the door a shove and it slides open very slowly, letting out an unearthly squeal as it does. The three of us stand there, staring into the darkness. TJ fidgets next to me. Having second thoughts? No. His voice comes out in a crackly squeak that Carl snorts at. Just so dark. Nighttime has a way of doing that, my man. Good thing I charged my phone before we left. Carl takes out his phone from his pocket and holds it up before turning on the light. Mine's almost dead. We can share. Carl sweeps the light inside, revealing graffiti-covered walls and dirt-covered floors. Nice. I look back and see Jenna staring at us from the car. She gives me a thumbs up. I inhale deeply. Well, let's go. I take out my own phone and step inside, and TJ follows me. Carl stands next to us, spinning in a circle. Well, it's not that creepy. Okay, so the rooms here are the 200s. TJ points up at a doorway to us, a small label above it reading 203. So that means that we have to go up one floor. Carl sweeps his light around and points to the staircase. Shall we? Those things better be stable. Carl points his light up the staircase. I can see some graffiti up there. It's probably fine. The ram leads the way, at first tentatively setting a hoof on the first step before testing the next. Yeah, it's good. And with that, he strides up the stairs while TJ and I follow a little more hesitantly. Why don't they just demolish this place? Heard they wanted to turn it into a museum. Can't see why though. Carl shines his light on the railing, the wood rotted and broken. Hey, do you guys remember when Chase saw someone staring out from one of the windows up here? Oh my gosh, please don't talk about this right now. Do you even remember that, Chase? Yeah, actually. That was a long time ago. I hardly remembered it, but I do remember seeing a dark form in one of the windows. I'd been positive it was just an object sitting in the room, but I wanted to tell my friend that I'd seen a ghost. It was nothing like what I saw in the trees. Thinking about it is creeping me out, though. Stop! TJ whines as we reach the top of the stairs, then, clearly trying to change the subject, points at the door. Alright, 305, so maybe this way, Chase. Let me see your phone. TJ takes it from me and points it up at the next door over. Yeah, 304, so the last one down. He hands me back my phone and stands there a moment. Carl chuckles. Want me to go first? You scared? TJ glares at him. Come on, guys, I want to get out of here too. Okay. Carl leads the way again, down the hall to the very end. There's more stuff in the way on this floor with a lot of desks and chairs. Carl keeps his light up, counting down the doors. 303, and 302, and 30... Fuck! TJ jumps a foot in the air and I point my light at Carl. What? Carl turns around sheepishly, rubbing his hip. Ran into the stupid desk, hurt like a mother. Really, Carl? TJ clings to me, taking a deep breath. But here's the door. Carl points the light back up above the door, and sure enough, there's a 301 up there. TJ and I stand next to him, both staring into the dark room. Hey, I think this might actually be the room you saw the thing staring at you from. Carl? There's a warning tone in TJ's voice. I rub my chin. Actually, yeah, I think it is. TJ sighs loudly and closes his eyes. Guys, please, can we just... Yeah! Carl thrusts his hands into TJ's side as he yells, sending TJ into a hysterical fit of screaming and grabbing onto me. I stumble as I try to keep the lynx from rending my flesh with his claws. Oh shit, sorry, ow! Carl reaches out to, I assume, comfort TJ, but gets a backhand across the face in response. You ass! I mean, TJ didn't say fuck, but it's close enough. I watched the two of them with wide eyes, never having seen TJ so indignant. Carl stares back, a hand up to his cheek. Whoa. Alright, let's start looking. As if nothing had happened, TJ takes my phone and strides into the room, his tail twitching in irritation. I can't believe you slapped me. Carl calls after him but gets no response. I smile, trying not to laugh as I walk past the ram. Can you? He asks me, rubbing his cheek as he follows me in. Hey, you asked for it. Probably not the best time to be scaring him. Yeah, whatever. What the hell are we looking for anyway? I look around. From what I can see, there's not much left in the room. A few desks are pushed up against the wall, and aside from a chalkboard and map at one end of the room, there's nothing else. I go over to stand by TJ at the other end of the room, looking at the desks. There's not much in here, is there? TJ sweeps the light around the room, frowning. Not really. He points the light at Carl, who's at the other end of the room by the chalkboard. Anything written on the chalkboard, Carl? Carl shines his light on the board, then gasps. What? There is. It's a whole lot of dick. Carl steps to the side, pointing his light at the board, and sure enough, it's covered in countless drawings of dicks. TJ sighs. I mean, we were bound to hit a roadblock eventually. I trail off, staring out the window at the far end of the room where I see a small-looking box on the ledge. What's that? I point and TJ shines the line over at it. A metal toolbox glints back at us. TJ immediately walks over to it and I follow him. Carl joins us as TJ fiddles with the latches, popping them open. There's a soft creak as he lifts the lid, a tray extending out as he does. And there, sitting in the tray, is another folded piece of paper. There's no way. Yeah, that makes no sense. Why not? TJ gently picks up the note, handing me back my phone. Shine that on this for me, please. Someone would have taken it by now. Well, they didn't. See? TJ had unfolded it and shows me the handwriting, the exact same we'd seen on the other two notes. I frown, but I don't say anything more. Maybe it did just sit here for the past 10 years. No one wanted to bother with an old-looking toolbox. But this place is broken into regularly, with the whole point being to tag or take stuff. Someone definitely should have taken it by now. This was all on top of the idea that Sydney came in here as a little kid just to hide a note. Something isn't right, and I'm starting to feel uneasy. I don't have to dwell on that, though, as TJ begins to read. So you went to the school. You found it with some tools. Next, go to where I sleep. It's where I keep my secrets, something Chase can't keep. Sid. It's silent for a moment as we all take that in. I feel my face flush and my fur prickle as I wonder what the hell the last line is supposed to be. Carl and TJ don't look at me, but I can sense that they want to. Carl is the first one to make a sound, clearing his throat. So, Sydney's bedroom, maybe? That's what I'm thinking. This is a kid writing this stuff, so it should be pretty straightforward. I shake my head. Really, guys? TJ finally looks over at me. What? There's a defensive tone in TJ's voice, and I know he knows what I'm about to say. This is way too much. TJ frowns at me. Too much what? You know. I trail off, not used to TJ looking at me this way. He lets the silence drag on, and I look over to Carl for help. He clears his throat again. You know, Teach, this is pretty weird. Like someone probably would have taken it by now. Why does that have to be the case? People could have just missed it. We almost did. TJ looks back down at the note, holding it in both his paws. I reach out for it, but TJ pulls it back like I'm going to try and steal it from him. Can I look at it for a sec? TJ hesitates, then holds it out to me slowly. I eye the links as I reach out, taking the note from him gently. TJ's behavior alone has me deciding that this whole thing is definitely a bad idea. The note looks old, just like the first two we found. The writing looks the same, too. Maybe it is possible that Sydney came in here to hide the note, wanting to make the scavenger hunt especially scary for us. But still, I can't shake the feeling that something is off about it. I need to find time to really think about this. For now, though, I hand the paper back to TJ, who takes it from me gingerly, as if worried it'll fall apart. Carl, do you know who lives in Sydney's old house now? Carl tips his head back as if thinking. I can't remember his name, but he's a red panda, I think. Well, let's go then. I give a start. To the house? His family moved out right after it happened. There's no way it's still there, TJ. The other two were. This is different, though. Might as well try. Okay, am I the only one who genuinely thought that when it said where he sleeps, that I immediately thought of his grave? Like, I know it's morbid as hell, but I seriously thinking it might be his grave. I can't imagine going up to the new homeowner and telling him about Sydney and this posthumous scavenger hunt and him just letting us in. But the determined look on TJ's face tells me right away that I won't be able to talk him out of it. I sigh. Well, can we at least do it tomorrow? I look at my phone. It's almost 10. TJ doesn't say anything as he looks out the window, his face barely visible in the darkness. Carl shifts around next to me. Yeah, I'm getting pretty tired. We have all day tomorrow. TJ suddenly turns around and heads for the door. Fine, but we are going. I am, at least. Carl glances at me, probably feeling as uneasy as I am. Hey, I'm coming too. Just think it'll be easier. TJ doesn't respond, and we make the rest of the treacherous journey out of the school in silence. Jenna looks up from her phone as I slide into the driver's seat. Find anything? Yeah. Another note? Yeah. Well, what did it say? I busy myself with searching my pockets for the keys, so Jenna turns in her seat to look back at Carl and TJ. Well? Next one is at Sydney's old house. What? Really? Yes. We're going there tomorrow. TJ doesn't offer anything more, so Jenna turns back around in her seat and gives me a look. She seems to sense the mood, though, and doesn't question any further. As I stick the key into the ignition, TJ speaks up again. Chase, what did he mean by you not keeping secrets? A moment of silence goes by before I answer. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been a long time. I lay awake next to TJ, listening to the lynx's steady breathing. I've been tossing and turning for the past 3 hours, trying to get some sleep, but my mind won't settle. This whole scavenger hunt has me left with such a bad taste in my mouth. Something about it is especially unsettling, and I've turned it over and over in my mind, examining it from every angle, and now I'm sure of it. I saw that fox hanging in the forest after Sydney died. That's why I was there in the first place. That's why I'd been so sad. I turn over on my side, gripping my pillow in both paws as I stare at the wall while listening to TJ's soft snoring behind me. So how the hell is any of this happening? It's scary, but not because I think Sydney's ghost is riding scavenger hunts or some stupid shit like that. No. Someone wrote the notes pretending to be Sydney, then planted them around the town for us to find. And that someone is likely one of us. Leo, Carl, Jenna, Flynn, or even TJ? Are any of us sick enough to do something like that? And if so, who? I try to remember if I told anyone about that incident in the forest before today, but I honestly can't remember. Apparently, my mom had told some people about it, Jenna's parents for one. But I really can't imagine Jenna being among the aforementioned. Whoever's writing them seems to like singling me out too, mentioning the forest and how I told secrets. I roll back to stare at the ceiling and start wondering about TJ. He's been acting really strange the past few days. His bright, cheerful demeanor almost completely gone after we started the treasure hunt. I guess it's possible that he's upset enough to do something that's as crazy as this. Maybe it could make him feel like he's connecting to the person he'd watched to die over a decade ago. Maybe he did it a long time ago and it's only now that we've come across them. Maybe he can't remember because he buried those memories. Those papers do seem pretty old, but I can't shake the feeling that this person has it out for me in some way. Think about how Carl was the only one to find the first letter, but I almost immediately dismissed the idea that Carl might be involved. He would have no reason to do it, unless the only other person I can ever imagine doing this is Flynn. He was the one most upset about Sydney's death, aside from TJ. Carl and Flynn seem to have grown pretty close over the past year or so. Could the two of them be involved somehow? It's pretty suspicious that it would just show up in Carl's basement. I roll back to my side, preferring to stare at the wall. I don't like suspecting my friends like this, but this whole thing is messed up on so many levels, and I'm really worried about TJ. Depending on how this all ends, it could make things even worse for him. Considering how Flynn treated TJ at the river, I wouldn't be surprised if it's leading up to something terrible. And on top of all that, there's the insidious way that these rhymes refer to me. I decide that I'm going to have to do something after we find the next note, depending on what it says. If we even find it at all. I'm hoping that we don't. If you go in, I'll give you $1. No. $5. No. 10. No. You could buy like 20 candy bars with that money. I'm not going in. Alright. Quit yelling. Carl and I swing side by side, synchronizing our legs so that we swing back and forth at the same time. As always, it doesn't work because Carl's so much heavier than I am. The wind feels good on my fur, finally cooling me down after being in the heat all day. Toby sits on top of the slide next to us, watching us with a bored look on his face. It's my turn, Chase. In a minute. It's been like 15 minutes. Nuh-uh. Toby sighs and sits back, pouting. I look back over at the old school and smile. But if you go inside, I'll let you. No! Toby's shout seems to echo around us, and I giggle. Fine. We swing a little longer, the rhythmic squeaking of the chains being the only sound. When's Sydney coming back with the popsicles? He's taking forever. Maybe his mom caught him and made him stay home. Ugh. Carl leans far back in the swing, and I feel the entire thing shift around. I wonder if it's going to collapse. We should go to your house, Chase. It's too hot. I want to swing. I lower my feet and let them kick through the dirt as I slow myself, sending a cloud of dust in the air. This talk about Sydney reminds me of something I'd been told about yesterday, and now that he isn't here. Hey guys, Mom told me something about Sid yesterday. Toby's already slid down the slide and walked up next to me, holding one of the chains on the swing as he tries to push me out of the seat. Don't push me, Toby. Don't you want to hear it? It's a secret. Oh my god, this is why. I move to stand between the two swings as Carl kicks his hooves in the dirt next to us. Keep swinging, Carl. I want to swing with you. Wait, what's the secret? Swing, Carl. Wait a minute, it's really weird. That seems to finally catch Toby's attention, and he settles down. What? Carl and Toby stare at me and for the first time I feel a little worried about telling them, but having their full attention like this is kind of cool. You know what happened to Sid's dad a while ago when school started, right? Yeah? Carl's completely stopped on the swing now, staring at me. Well, my mom says the cops think it's really weird what happened. Sydney's dad died. He's in heaven now. Toby says it matter-of-factly and starts to swing a little again. Even if you're a Mormon, you can still go to heaven. My dad said so. Yeah, but do you know how he died? I start whispering and look over my shoulder at the dirt road to see if Sid is coming. It's empty for now. He accidentally got shot when he was hunting with Sid. That's what the adults told us, that he was accidentally shot, maybe while he was loading his gun. My mom said they aren't sure if that really happened, though. What do you mean? Toby seems to have taken interest again and stops swinging, staring at me. Well, maybe Sid did something. Carl frowns. Like, Sydney did it? I mean, I don't know, but my mom said to be careful around him just in case. Toby's eyes suddenly widen even more as he suddenly understands. Sid killed his dad? Shh! Toby flinches and I grab his muzzle with one paw, squeezing it shut. You have to keep it a secret. Toby just sits there, staring at me. Carl does the same. Now I kind of wish that I hadn't told them. They don't know, though. My mom just said to be careful. That's it. It might have been an accident. I talk kind of fast, like I'm trying to take back what I just said. I let go of Toby, but he just sits there and doesn't swing. Carl just stares at the ground, then his ears flick up. A few seconds later, I hear scuffling footsteps making their way up the dirt road, and I turn around to see Sydney jogging toward us. His arms are filled with colorful ice pops wrapped in plastic. Hey, sorry, I had to go into the basement freezer to find some. They're Super Wolf Pops. He stumbles up next to us, kicking up another cloud of dust. He stands there for a second, breathing heavy, sweating through his thick fur. Grab one. Three of us reach out automatically and take one of our own. Mine is partially melted already, blue liquid pulling up at one end of the plastic. Sydney frowns at us. What were you guys talking about? Nothing. Carl says it almost before Sydney can finish his sentence. Sydney glares. Yeah, right. What were you saying about me? Sydney turns on me and I just shake my head, busying myself with opening the plastic. Then Sydney turns to Toby, his glare turning into a smirk. All right, Tobias, you'd better tell me what you were talking about. I feel my stomach turn even as I open the package and turn it upside down to pour the sweet blue juice into my mouth. Tell me or I'm going to wrestle ya. Sydney goes at Tobias with his paws up, baring his blunt claws. Toby eyes him for a moment. Once Sydney gets close to the lynx twists out of the way like only a cat can. Don't touch me! Toby hides behind Carl and I as Sydney turns to watch him, lowering his paws slowly. What's wrong? Toby doesn't say anything, standing behind me quietly. I can feel his cold ice pop pressing against my back. We stand in silence for a while, and I can see Sydney trying to figure out what's going on. I try to think of something fast. Hey, let's go to my house and play on the trampoline. Yeah! Carl hops out of the swing and starts walking toward the road. I follow him, and as Toby clings to my side. Sydney doesn't follow, and after a moment, I turn back to look at him. He's glaring at me. What? He goes on glaring before throwing his ice pop into the dirt and running past us. You guys suck. He runs up the road and back toward town, disappearing into the bright sunset. Friday. TJ gets up early in the morning, and I fall in and out of sleep as he moves around the room quietly. The shower turns on at some point, and I think I hear Jenna's voice. I fall asleep again, and when I wake up next, I see Jen in the corner of the room, sitting at the little table, typing away on her laptop. I stare at her groggily until she notices me. Morning. Still tired? It's almost noon. I rub my face into my pillow and groan. Guess I was up later than I thought. I forced myself to sit up. Couldn't fall asleep. Yeah, I've been having trouble too. These beds are terrible. I look around. Where's Tej? Hike. What? He went on a hike. I sit there, frowning at Jenna. She types a while until she finally notices me staring and shakes her head. I don't know. He wanted to go alone. He's been asking us to go with him all week. I know. I think something's bothering him. Jenna pauses. Well, I know it's the scavenger hunt. Of course that's what's bothering him. I sit on the edge of the bed, rubbing my face with my paws. This was a bad idea. Jenna goes on typing. Maybe, maybe not. He really wanted to do it. I'm going to try and talk with him when he gets back, though. I stare at my feet for a moment, deciding on whether or not to just text him now. Jenna, do you think there's something weird about the treasure hunt? Jenna doesn't even look up from her screen. Of course I do. I think everything about it is weird. I mean, I don't even know if Sydney put those there. Jenna finally looks up at me. Why not? Just everything seems off. Who do you think put them there, then? I shrug. I don't know. Jenna stares at the computer screen for a while, not typing anymore. Well, the whole reason we're doing this is because of TJ. This seems to be what he wants to do. And even if it was someone else that left them there, it's going to help him, then I'm going to help him with it. Jenna shrugs. And in the end, all this is a treasure hunt. I'm just hoping that it ends at the house. Yeah. Jenna goes on typing, apparently done with the conversation, so I finally get up to go to the shower. Breakfast is long gone by the time I get to the lobby, and what's left is a few dried biscuits. So I opt to go to the diner instead while Jenna opts to stay in the room to finish her paper. I sit at my usual booth in the corner of the diner, half-heartedly flipping through the menu. Janice comes over to take my order, and my short answer to her pleasantries keep her from being too chatty. Once I'm done ordering, I sit back and look out the window, watching the bright sun bake the hot desert below. I imagine TJ out there on the trail, trudging along the path under the 100-plus degree heat. Aside from worrying about what he might be going through right now, I also worry that I might pass out in this kind of weather. I can only hope he had the right mind to take along enough water and make sure to cool off, like he did to me. I look down at my phone at the table, again considering whether or not I should call him. Maybe a text at least. Hey man. Okay, but why the smile? That wasn't necessary. Then I set my phone back down and wait for a response, wondering if I might drive out to the trail myself if he doesn't. That's when I sense someone move up next to the table. I look up expecting to see Janice, but I'm met with the sight of a young white deer, his clasped paws holding a folded blue apron. I blank on his name for a few moments and I'm left with my mouth hanging open like an idiot. Then I remember, oh, Julian, what's up? Julian smiles. Hey there, my shift just ended and I saw you sitting here. I wait, but he doesn't go on. Oh, I don't want to say it, but it looks like he's expecting it and I can't really find a way out, so... Want to sit down? Yeah, sure. Julian responds quickly and slides in the booth across from me, setting his folded apron down on the table. Thanks. Yeah, no problem. I wonder if I sound a little annoyed. A part of me hopes that I do so that he might get the hint, like Janice did. But he goes on sitting there, interlocking his fingers and resting his forearms on the table. How are you today? Good. You? Julian shrugs. I've been better. This job is really starting to wear me out, you know? Yeah, I've had a few like that. While the buck seems nice enough, I don't think I've had more than 5 conversations with the guy in my entire life. He was just a regular face that I saw through middle and high school, a part of the background. It wasn't until the last few years of high school that I noticed him and TJ hanging out, and TJ was the only reason we ever briefly interacted. So I'm a bit confused now as to why he's suddenly taken an interest. Yeah, what sort of job do you have? Oh well, I'm between jobs right now. I'm going to school, but I'll probably stock shelves over the summer like I did last year. So that job wore you out? Well, no, but my fast food job did, the one I had in high school. Kind of like stacking boxes and putting stuff on shelves. See, I think food service jobs are definitely the worst, but I can see why stocking might be a little better. He breaks off as Janice comes back, setting down my chicken sandwich. Oh, you know Chase, Julian? A little. I know him through TJ. Ah, well, if you see that boy again, let him know that I'd like to chat with him. I look up and Janice gives me a wink before bustling off. I decided to definitely not let TJ know. But anyway, I'm going to school too, over at Mesa, and this diner has some seriously flexible hours. Only reason why I'm still here. At least you guys don't seem very busy, even during the lunch hour. I nod at the 2 or 3 occupied tables. Yeah, it's a wonder we're still in business. Probably going to have to close down in a year or 2. That idea actually makes me a little sad. I look down at my chicken sandwich, feeling a bit awkward at the idea of Julian just watching me eat, so I leave it on the plate for now. Julian leans back and looks out the window. So, where's TJ at? I thought you two were hanging out. I get the feeling that this is the main reason why Julian is talking to me. Yeah, he went off on a hike earlier this morning. I slept in. Oh, I see. You still do that a lot? I shrug. I don't know. We've only been here about a week. He does love going on hikes, though. I mean, does he do that at CCU? I stare at Julian for a second before I realize what he's talking about. Oh no, I don't go to CCU. I'm at Pueblo. Huh. So you guys met up here? Well, I picked him up and brought him here along with Jenna, but she goes to Pueblo too. I grow a little frustrated having to explain everything to this guy. All I want to do is eat, then go back to the motel and wait for TJ. I see. Well, TJ was my best friend during senior year, after you and Carl left. We hung out all the time. After he left for college, we kind of lost touch. Yeah. He's not very active on social media. I'd only seen TJ post a few pictures since he started classes. A few of him were on the college soccer team, and one of him was standing in a prayer circle along with an inspirational quote. But Julian revealing that he was TJ's best friend toward the end of high school cools my exasperation. I suppose he does have a reason to know what TJ might be up to. He was kind of depressed right after graduation, so I'd been a little worried about him. Depressed? That surprises me. I've never known TJ to be depressed. Sure, he's been sad before, but not outright depressed as far as I know. Maybe I don't know much about him. Thought it might have to do with graduation, but it went on all summer. Oh, well, if you want to talk to him, I can definitely let him know. I gesture at my phone on the table. I also make a mental note to myself that I should talk to TJ too. About everything. Julian smiles. That'll be great. Please do. I think he must have changed his number after leaving. Okay. I hesitate, then pick up the phone to type out the brief message. I just met Julian at the diner. He'd like to talk to you. Again, why the smiley face? It's unnecessary. TJ hasn't texted me back yet. How long have you known TJ? I set the phone back down and settled back into the booth. Since he got here in 2001, so 14 years ago? Wow, that's a long time. Yeah, it really is. You guys always been good friends? For the most part. I had times where I was kind of a dick to him, but he's always been a good friend to me. I see. Yeah, we all went to the same elementary school, but it wasn't until junior high that I met him in Bible study. Of course. I always knew about you guys, though. The Echo Kids. Yep, that was us. The weirdos. Julian glances around before lowering his voice. It was a mean thing to say, but this town is kind of messed up. A lot of weird things happen here. I can't argue with that. Julian looks around again, biting his lip. Then he lowers his voice another notch. Hey, so this is going to be a bit weird and I don't want to offend you, but it's something that's bothered me for a while. I eye Julian warily. Yeah? TJ told me what happened at Lake Emma a while back while we were talking about death and heaven. I feel a little chill go up my spine. Well, he never actually told me about what exactly happened, but I can tell it really affects him. Julian pauses, but I don't say anything, keeping my eyes fixed on the table. Now, you don't have to tell me, and if it makes you uncomfortable, please don't. But I feel like if I have a better idea of what happened, I might understand him a bit better. Julian brings his interlocked fingers up to his chin to rest it on. I'm not going to ask him to tell me, of course. I know it was a long time ago, but I know you can carry stuff like that around for a long time. So if you're not okay with it, then please just let me know and I'll change the subject. I contemplate for a moment, wondering if the buck is out of line to be asking about such a thing. I decide he isn't. He's one of TJ's best friends, so in a way he's sort of connected to it. So I guess he does have a reason to know. Okay, but please don't bring it up with TJ. Like you said, it really affects him. Never. Julian looks at me solemnly. I think for a moment, gathering my thoughts. It's been a long time since I thought of this story from beginning to end. It was around August, I think. 2003. It's a little bit hard to remember. What I do remember is that we'd all gone down to the lake to swim like we did almost every week. There's this little spot where the beach kind of curves in and it's almost sand and shallow water. It's mostly sand and shallow water. That's where we'd usually hang out and swim. Even though the water was always sort of stagnant there, it was at least safe and warm compared to the rest of the lake. I think at some point one of us wanted to go and skip rocks. We had to go further up shore to do that, and TJ was more interested in building sandcastles. So we stayed behind while the rest of us went up the beach to find rocks. When you go up that far, you can't really see that spot anymore. So I'm not completely sure what happened. I vaguely remember looking back at TJ as we went up to the beach. Link's bending over his castle, the back of his wet swim trunks covered in sand from when he'd sat down. Sydney went with us. I at least remember that. While we were skipping rocks, he just sort of disappeared. I glance up at Julian for a moment and see him listening attentively before I look back down at the table. Anyway, we heard some splashing and shouting from TJ, and we all ran up to the beach to see Sydney floating out in the lake. I swam out there and got to him. Too late, though. I don't mention the part where TJ was crouched in 3 feet of water, staring at Sydney's body floating 20 feet away from him. I don't tell him that TJ's explanation for what happened always amounted to Sydney stepping out too far into the water. And maybe the current knocked him off balance and pulled him in. How he'd even said that it almost looked like an invisible shark had grabbed Sid and pulled him out. How none of it makes any sense at all. None of us are sure what happened. It seems to be enough for Julian, though, as he shakes his head. I'm very, very sorry to hear that, but thank you for telling me. All I knew was that a friend of his drowned in the lake. He didn't tell me how close he was to it. Makes sense why it would still deeply affect him. No problem. I realize that Julian is probably the first person that I've ever told this story to outside of Echo. I also realize that it wasn't hard at all to do. I suppose it's easier to tell someone who wasn't related to the incident, someone that has no connection to the raw horror of that day. That and a lot of time in the past. Maybe I just got over it without even knowing. But yeah, Echo is a crazy place. You know about that mass hysteria thing that happened 100 years ago? This place is kind of famous for that. Almost all of the paranormal podcasts I listen to have an episode on it. My heart skips a beat as I suddenly remember my project. I cover my face with my paws. Shit. What's wrong? Did I say something? I uncover my face to see Julian looking at me with some concern. No, I just forgot some schoolwork that needed to get done. A project. The excitement around the scavenger hunt had completely wiped the thought of it from my mind. Oh, what kind of project? A news report on Echo and that mass hysteria incident. I've barely done anything on it since I first got here. Hey, that's so cool. Do you need help? I blink, the buck's eagerness surprising me. For the first time, I see him become embarrassed, the skin on the inside of his ears turning a dark red. Sorry, it's something that's always interested me, so I got a little excited. I glance down at my phone and see that I still haven't gotten a response from TJ, so I get an idea. Despite my initial annoyance, I like how considerate Julian was about the whole lake incident. I also want to give him a chance to see TJ before the end of our trip. Well, actually, I've been meaning to get some footage of the mine, or at least the opening since it's sealed up. If you want, we can head up there to get some shots and at the same time look for TJ. The trail is in that area. Julian perks up. Hey, that would be really awesome. Thanks. Do you want to eat that first? I look down at my sandwich, then shake my head. I'll just eat on the way to the motel. Oh, I got my truck. I can drive you over, and there's a bunch of room if you need it for your equipment. Okay, yeah, thanks. Just let me get a to-go box and we can leave. 20 minutes later, and we're heading up the narrow canyon road toward the mine. I haven't been there in years, but the dirt road leads straight to it, so I don't even have to look up instructions. Julian chats away while I eat my lukewarm sandwich out of the phone to-go box. While there's an almost robotic quality to the buck with how articulate he is, he's also really nice. I can certainly see why TJ would call him a friend. The bumpy road curves upward, and finally we get to the mine. There's a wide open dirt space for parking, along with some concrete barriers along the edge of the drop-off. There are a few signs posted, probably giving a brief history on the mine, and then there's TJ. The Lynx is sitting at the opening of the mine, right at the entrance. He's leaning back against the rebar grid that sealed the entrance. What the? Julian stops talking and looks over at me, then in the direction I'm looking. Whoa, is that Tej? I don't say anything because I realize now how limp the Lynx looks. His head tipped back, his paws limply laying on the ground. I'm out of the truck before Julian can even park, my to-go box spilling out onto the gravel as I jog toward TJ. TJ, hey, what's wrong? You okay? The Lynx doesn't respond, and when I get to him, I see that his eyes are open, but they're rolled back to the point where I can only see white. I bend over him, trying to help him sit up better, made more difficult by his bulky backpack getting in the way. As I'm doing this, I feel a rush of cold air from the mine blowing out through the rebar. I ignored it first, focused on trying to get TJ to respond to me. That's when I realized there's a hissing sound to go with it, like someone exhaling. I glance up through the grid, but I don't see anything. Still, I get the unnerving feeling that the opening is breathing somehow. Hang on, I'm gonna make fuck visible, but also change the text to here we go. I just had to modify it a bit. Is he alright? Julian's shouting and running up next to me. He turns my attention back to TJ. I look down at the Lynx and see his ears twitching around. Huh, what? I crouch down next to him, putting a paw behind his head to give him some support. TJ, what happened? Are you okay? TJ turns to me, blinking in confusion. Okay, what's wrong? He rubs out his eyes with the back of his paw before adjusting himself so that he can sit up straight. You were just sitting there. It almost looked... Julian pauses. It looked like you were passed out or something. TJ finally seems to focus on us, the dazed look in his eyes disappearing. Passed out? Oh, no, I was just taking a quick nap. TJ lets out a short laugh and leans his head back against his backpack. What? Here? I look back at the sealed mine, the ominous blackness still seeming to yawn open at us. Why? Well, it's hotter than usual out today, so I started to feel like I was going to pass out. Thought that might be a bad sign, so I decided to rest once I got here. You came here on purpose? Yeah, I saw the canyon with you last time, so I decided to take a trip to the mine this time. TJ smiles lazily up at me as he continues to lounge against his backpack. Sorry I worried you, Anne. Oh, Julian! TJ seems to suddenly realize that the stag is here. What are you doing here? TJ quickly gets to his feet, sliding his arms out of the straps of his backpack. He hugs Julian, Stag hugging back just as enthusiastically. TJ doesn't even greet me so intimately. I guess they have more of a history than I thought. Hey, Tej. Yeah, I met Chase at the diner. You weren't answering your text, so we both decided to come up and find you. That and Chase needs to get some footage for his project. Oh, cool. Do you need help with that, Chase? TJ turns to me with a grin. I don't know what it is, but TJ's acting a lot more chipper than he was yesterday. That almost dark broodiness is gone, replaced by his usual cheer. I have to smile because of it, despite the situation just a few minutes ago. Sure. Another breeze of cool air seems to whoosh softly through the rebar. I look back at it. TJ, why the hell would you sleep here next to the creepy mine? TJ frowns. It was really cool. Like, cold. I was laying in the opening and felt some cool air blow out, so I decided to lean against it. It feels really nice. TJ walks up to the metal grid and spreads his arms out, clutching onto bars as he presses his face against it. He leans his head back, pulling a face. Well, it smells really musty, but it feels good. I look back at the opening, the blackness inside sending chills up my spine. I think back to when a body was found in there over 100 years ago. Even though I know there aren't any dead bodies in there now, it still creeps me the fuck out. I try to hide my shudder as I turn away, looking back at the truck. Hey, so are we going to Sidney's old house now? Is that why you guys came to find me? TJ's trying to hide it, but I can hear the eagerness in his voice. I turn back to look at him, the lynx now with his back to the mine, pressing up against it. I want to tell him to move away from the opening, but I wouldn't be able to explain to him why. Well, let me get some filming done first. I can do the voiceover later, so it'll be quick. I hold back a wince as I realize how much time that's going to take. The project is going to be shit at this point. Can't avoid that. I just need to make it the least shit I can. Oh yeah, sorry. TJ laughs nervously, then looks away. Sorry, I'm just a little loopy from my nap. You guys really surprised me. It's okay. I'm gonna grab my equipment really quick, alright? TJ nods at me, and I jog off to the parked truck to grab my camera. So TJ might still be acting a little weird, but I'm just glad he seems happy again. Seeing him the way he was last night was a little unnerving, to say the least. I scoop up my camera bag from the bed of the truck and head back, slowing down to a walk as the heat is already starting to catch up with me. How TJ was able to go on a several hour long hike is absurd to me. It almost seems foolish, especially for someone like TJ who knows about how dangerous that can be. When I get back to the mine entrance, I see Julian and TJ sitting with their backs to the other side of the opening, chatting with each other. They're eating granola bars, and TJ holds one out to me as I approach. Thanks. Hey TJ? Huh. TJ looks up at me innocently. If you go on a hike again, be sure to bring me next time, okay? I don't think you should be out alone out here. Oh, yeah, sure. His ears droop a little, a small frown on his face. I just don't want you to get hurt, you know? It's really hot today, and it would have been really terrible if you'd passed out alone. Yeah, sorry. I drop my bag gently on the ground before leaning back against the wall next to the lynx. It's all good. I just want to make sure you're okay. Thanks. I just didn't want to wake you up this morning. Jenna offered to go with you, didn't she? TJ sighs quietly, looking away into the mine. Yeah, but I can tell you guys don't want to go. I just don't want to ruin this trip for you more than I already have. What? TJ, what are you talking about? TJ goes quiet, then just shrugs his shoulders. Maybe he isn't back to his old self after all. I wouldn't mind going with you, TJ. I love hiking. Julian smiles gently at the lynx. For some reason, I feel a tiny tug of annoyance in my chest. It's stupid, but I was the one who offered first, and I'm the one that took TJ out the first time. Yeah, we could both go. The point is, you don't go alone next time. Alright, Tej? Yeah, okay. Thanks, guys. No problem. A short silence stretches out between the three of us before Julian speaks up again. We were just talking about our old Bible study group. Ugh. TJ leans his head back against the wall, rolling his eyes. It's an expression I don't see from him very often. What about it? Oh, just the way that TJ would always take it so seriously, and no one else would. TJ shakes his head in exasperation. Yeah, I never had any control in that club. Oh, really? Were you in charge? It's a little odd to think of TJ in a leadership position like that. I just never knew him to put himself out there in high school. Yeah, I revived it after it sort of went defunct for a few years. Wasn't all that popular. TJ smiles with some embarrassment. Yeah, we had like 3 other members, not including you or me. Yeah, then one dropped out after like 2 meetings. Julian clicks his tongue. What a godless school we went to. Hey, you know I'm kidding. Mostly. Well, I did want atheists to join too, as long as they weren't disruptive. I just wanted to show everyone what a nice experience it could be, even if you didn't believe. I vaguely remember TJ inviting me to the club and me saying that I'd think about it. I never went, of course. Wasn't all that spiritual in the end, though. Yeah, mostly we just talked about snacks. It took TJ a while to realize that no one wanted another Sunday school session at actual school. Yep, hours of planning out the window. It was still a great time. I think the 4 of us were happier for it. Yeah, I guess. TJ seems to suddenly notice me. Ah, sorry Chase, you wouldn't know much about this stuff. It's okay. It's interesting to hear about. Again, I get that little twinge of jealousy, even though I know it's not fair. I'd chosen not to show up, probably using that time to go home and hang out with Leo. You didn't miss much, just discussions about movies, and watching movies too. They couldn't even be religiously themed. Thank God. Hey! I laugh at how indignant TJ is. Well, I'm glad you had a good time at least. I came away thinking the whole thing was a failure. I think I remember you mentioning that you wished your friend here would have showed up. I don't really remember. Of course you do. You said it all the time. TJ's ears flatten and turn red. Who, me? Yup. Julian grins as TJ tries to look away. While the situation is kind of funny, now I feel even worse about not ever showing up. Sorry, Tej. You know it's high school and all. Yeah, I understand. Don't worry about it. So did you start another club at your new school? TJ smirks. It's a Christian school, so there's like 50 clubs about religion. Oh, are you a member of any of them? A few. Which ones? A singles club. Singles? As in finding a date? Sure. He looks away again. It's hilarious how bashful he is about this stuff. He's in college. All of this should be natural to talk about, but not with TJ. You meet anyone? Hey Chase, don't you have to film some stuff? He looks back at me with a frown. Whoa, just asking. Julian chuckles quietly. I bend down and start pulling out my equipment, deciding that a few long shots with a tripod should be enough. As I'm extending out the legs, Julian asks TJ about the hike. Was it fun? TJ shrugs, finishing the last of his granola bar and brushing his paws together to get rid of the crumbs. It was okay. It was really quiet. I wince as one of my pads gets pinched between the metal. Kinda creepy, to be honest. I would like it if you two went along sometime, if I do it again. Of course. Yeah, definitely. Over the next 20 minutes, I set up the camera in 3 different spots, getting about 1 minute of film for each. TJ and Julian sit in the truck while I do, and whenever I glance at them, they seem to be animatedly chatting and laughing. Once I'm done, I sigh and quickly snap the legs back down into the bag along with the camera. I see my to-go box in the dirt and consider picking it up, but I don't. I drop the bag into the truck again before hopping into the passenger seat, leaving TJ to sit between the 2 of us. They go quiet as we start pulling out onto the dirt road. What were you guys talking about? Not much, just about high school. Oh shit. That's still there. Completely forgot about that. TJ nods. Again, I'm starting to feel a little left out between these two, kind of like a third wheel. So, what's the plan now? Well, we thought we'd go to the house now after we pick up Jenna and Carl. Alright. We drive in silence a little while, and for some reason I start to wish that I was sitting in the middle. The way Julian keeps turning the wheel forces his elbow to brush up against TJ's side end. I force myself to look away, wondering what the fuck I'm thinking. I'm treating TJ like he's something that belongs to me. We've only hung out recently over the course of this week. I'd barely talked to him the past 2 years. I force myself to look ahead, out the windshield, and TJ's phone buzzes and my eyes naturally go to the screen as the link whips it out. I see the name Flynn, then the message underneath it. Only have time to see a few words. You know his fucking tell me. TJ jerks his phone back down and I look away just as I feel the link's eyes on my face. I wonder if he saw me looking. I'm sure he did. That doesn't really matter though, because now I'm wondering what the fuck Flynn thinks he's doing. They've been staying away from each other the past few days, obviously, but I guess Flynn found another way to get to TJ. What the fuck does he think he's doing? I feel myself getting angry. I don't exactly know what the lizard is saying to TJ, but judging by the way I saw it, it's definitely not good. I'll make a mental note to ask TJ about it tonight. If he won't tell me, then I'll let Leo know. He'll do something about it. We all walk up the sidewalk to the old ranch-style house. It's been a long, long time since I've seen this place. Even longer since I've walked on this path. Sydney's house is up the gravel road behind the forest. It's a bit of an odd spot, secluded from the rest of the town. It was all the better for us, I guess. It's nice not to be reminded of what happened. Guys, I don't know about this. Think he's just going to let us in? What else can we do? Maybe Sydney didn't mention his room. Where else would he sleep? I don't know. I mean, he'd nap in random places if I remember right. Like, he slept on my couch even. Stop it, Chase. You know that's not what he meant. Well, who knows? I do. I know where it is. That dark edge to TJ's voice is creeping in again. I suppose there's no harm in asking. You can't deny that it's a little weird for 5 young adults to just show up on your doorstep asking to be let in. We don't have much of a choice though, do we? TJ's walking ahead of all of us, marching up the concrete steps without hesitation, before immediately ringing the bell. Whoa, wait, we didn't even think of what we're going to say. I already know what I'm going to say. We stand there in stunned silence for a bit, and I look around at the others. Carl looks completely uncomfortable, almost nauseous, his paws shoved deep into his pockets as he stares hard at the ground. Jenna is staring at TJ, her brow furrowed, clearly worried. Julian just stands there, as if the situation doesn't bother him at all. The door finally opens, revealing a young red panda, not much older than ourselves. He blinks at us, then fixes a smile on his face. Hello, can I help you? I see TJ's ears flatten down for a moment, his originally tough resolve clearly faltering. Hello. The red panda stares down at TJ for a moment, waiting expectantly. I don't recognize him, and I'm sure I would have seen him around town if he'd moved in after Sydney's parents moved out. Must have been sometime recently, a few years ago. I decide then that I should step in to let TJ try and gather his wits. Hi, I'm Chase. This is TJ, Carl, Jenna, and Julian. I point to everyone, feeling my cheeks grow hot. Hi everyone, I'm NG. Another moment of awkward silence before I try to think of something else to say. How the hell do you bring up wanting to search someone's house because it belonged to your dead friend? As I'm trying to figure that out, TJ speaks up again. Our friend used to live here about 12 years ago. Oh, really? The panda seems to think. Are you talking about Cindy? Sydney, yeah. He was our friend. Oh, sorry, I couldn't remember the name. I think his aunt told me about what happened. Yes, and he left something behind for us in his room. Is it alright if we come in and look for it? Angie's originally inquisitive look is replaced by one of confusion and definitely a little bit of suspicion. Oh, all of you? I notice Carl still staring down hard at the floor, his pads twisting in his pockets. If that's alright with you. Angie stares at us for a good 10 seconds, causing even me to glance down at the floor, realizing how stupid all of this is. Finally, he starts to step back, closing the door a little bit as he does. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's a good idea. Wait! TJ steps forward, his fur bristling. The panda jumps a little, closing the door further until it's at the point where I can only see one of his eyes. Sorry, it's just maybe I could come in and the rest of my friends can wait outside. This will be really quick. I know exactly where to look. The panda's one eye looks back at us. TJ turns around and makes a shooing gesture with both paws. There's a pause, then we stumble back a little, down the steps on the side of the walk. My face burns again with embarrassment, realizing what a bunch of crazy people we look like right now. I look back and see TJ standing alone on the porch, looking back at the panda, his paws clasped together. Again, what feels like a very long silence seems to drag on until NG opens the door slightly. You know what? Why don't you just tell me where it is, and I'll have a look. Oh yeah, TJ seems surprised, as if only now considering the idea. It's the room on the left, down the hallway. TJ points at the door at an angle. In the closet, in the back corner, it might be in a box. Angie's facial expression mirrors mine as I frown. Box in a closet, sitting there for over a decade? Alright, I'll have a look. Angie disappears behind the door, and I hear a deadbolt slide in place. We stand there in silence for a while before Carl breaks it. Dude, he's calling the police. No, he's not. We look like a bunch of crazy people. We should leave. Not until he comes back out. I think I'm going to be sick. I think it's technically okay unless he tells us to leave. He did say he's going to look for it. No harm in just waiting for his answer. I see Carl scuff his hooves against the pavement, looking around nervously. I wonder if he's had too much weed or something. Why do you think it's in the closet? He used a shoebox in there as a spot for his treasure hunts before. You remember. I vaguely do, now that he mentions it, but I'm surprised TJ does. He was even younger. Then the door opens and Inji comes back out. His facial expression is completely different now. It's one of amazement and disbelief, but it's what's in his paws that catches my attention. It's a teal-colored shoebox, old and worn and torn through the corners. My mouth drops. Inji stands there for a moment, holding the box out. Is this it? It's not mine, and there's a piece of paper inside. TJ's paw shakes as he reaches out to take the box, lifting the lid to look inside. It was in the spot that you said. I've never seen that before. I feel my stomach twist, more dismayed than anything that he found inside. Do you not use that closet? It's a bit of an odd question, but I want to know how the hell he might have missed it. Inji shakes his head. No, not really. It's mostly a storage room right now. I think I've opened it a few times to put some boxes on the shelves, but I can't really remember. Did you not look inside when you first moved in? Inji looks at me and so does TJ, over his shoulder. I guess now I'm sounding like the crazy person. Well, I can't really remember. It was a couple years ago. I had a family help me move them in, so maybe they just thought it was mine if they saw it. I want to ask more, but I bite my lip, not wanting to seem as frustrated and suspicious as I am. It's definitely something I could have missed. I found a few things in the crawl space from the last family who lived here before you, if you don't mind me asking. Inji leans against the doorway, his arms folded, looking a lot more relaxed now. It was the family you're talking about, I think. The Bronsons? Yes. TJ's still looking down at the box, having not taken out the note. Yep, the woman who lived here moved out right after what happened, but then her sister moved in. She told me about what happened when I bought the place. Inji looks down at the box that TJ's still holding. Do you know what he left you? How did you know to find it? It's an old scavenger hunt that we found. It told us to come here. Like, something he left behind? Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm sorry about what happened to your friend. You must have been children at the time. No one says anything, so I nod for him. I'm sorry. Also sorry for being so suspicious when you guys showed up. Thought I caught someone trying to break in a few days back. Can't be too careful. Don't worry about it. That's completely understandable. Angie nods, then shifts around. I don't want to pry, but what does it say? I didn't read it since I don't want to intrude or anything. TJ lifts the lid again, then reaches in to pull out the piece of paper. It's identical to the others that we've seen. Angie takes the box from the link so that he can use both paws to unfold the note. Then he starts reading. I hope that you're all having fun. Soon you'll know what Chase has done. Figure it out, it's a piece of cake. If you can't, look by Carl's drawing of the lake. It goes quiet for a while. The only sound is the wind rustling through the trees. Then I hear a gagging sound and look back just in time to see Carl hurling into some bushes. TJ is strangely calm as we sit in the motel room. It's been about half an hour since we found the last note. After Carl lost his lunch in the bushes, Julian drove him back home and we had to put the scavenger hunt on hold. TJ wants us all to be there for it. Julian is still with us and I keep wondering when the hell he's going to go home. He just joined our little group today and TJ acts like he needs to be part of this for some reason. He barely even knew Sydney. But that doesn't really matter. This whole thing is so ridiculous. So obvious that Sydney had nothing to do with the scavenger hunt. Someone's planting these damn notes and they have it out for me. I sit with my back against the headboard of the bed, staring at my legs as TJ tries to defend this whole thing. If it's really bothering you, Chase, then you don't have to come. I bristle a bit. You're insisting everyone else go, why not me? I force myself not to look over at Julian. I do want you to come, but you're so angry. I've never seen you like this. Oh, I have. We all have. Chase is just acting like his old self now. Jenna sits in the corner on her laptop as usual, smirking. It pisses me the fuck off. Listen, whoever's writing these has it out for me. Look at what the last one said. Sydney wrote them and he always kinda teased you. It's just like him. I go quiet, looking away with a glare. What do you think the clues are implying about you, Chase? I think for a moment, but it's hard with all the anger that keeps threatening to bubble to the surface. I don't know. I just don't like the sound of it, and honestly, I try to think of the right way to word what I'm going to say. If you respect me, you'd see that and stop the stupid hunt. It goes quiet for a moment, then Julian stands up. Hey, I'm gonna head out. Let me know what you guys decide to do tomorrow. I've got the whole day off. Oh, okay, man. Thanks so much for coming with us. TJ gives the stag a side hug, and I try to keep myself from whistling. Once Julian leaves out the door, TJ sits on the foot of the bed, looking at me. I completely respect you, Chase, but I really think these are from Sydney. He's just teasing you. I don't say anything, choosing to look at the wall, feeling more unnerved by my own emotions than anything else. I don't feel like myself at all. I know I asked you this morning, but if you think this is someone else's doing, who could it be? Jenna crosses her arms, looking at me earnestly. I sit there quietly for a moment, debating on whether or not I should tell them. I decide I have to, since neither of the others seem to see it. I think it's Flynn. What? I think it's Flynn and Carl. They're doing this whole thing. You can't be serious. Who else? Carl's the one that found the first note. I think Flynn gave it to him. The look on Jenna and TJ's face makes me look away again. Am I going crazy? Chase, that's crazy, I know, but you saw how Carl was acting today, how nervous he was. He even threw up. Carl does that sometimes. Ugh. I slide my legs off the bed and let them hang over the side, fully facing the wall now. I know how Flynn was back at the river, but even he wouldn't do that. I look back at TJ with a glare. What about those texts he's sending you? What? TJ's paw flies to his pocket, a shocked look on his face. Jenna looks between us. What? Flynn sent TJ a text swearing at him. I think he's been messaging you this whole time. TJ's quiet, just staring at me. TJ, is that true? TJ stares at the floor for a moment before finally looking up, his voice oddly calm. Yeah, well, he's angry. Of course he would be, but he has no reason to be riding this scavenger hunt. Flynn would never do that. You sure about that? TJ glares back at me, and now I can tell I've made him angry. Yes. Why would he do it in the first place? I don't have to think hard on that one. To hurt TJ, to ruin our friendship by making up lies about me, to just be a complete dick. Take your pick. That's absolutely ridiculous. I don't say anything, choosing to glare at the wall. Jenna looks between us again and shakes her head. Alright, that's enough of this. Neither of you are acting like yourselves, so I think it's best if we head to bed, alright? Whatever. I slide into the bed on my side, still staring at the wall, listening as TJ gets up and goes into the bathroom. Jenna goes on typing on her computer. I lay there quietly, deciding that I'm going to have to do something to stop this. Sneaking out of the motel room is probably the hardest part. I know that if they catch me at any point, it's over. At about 3 a.m., I slide out of the bed, listening to TJ's snores and watching Jenna's unmoving form curled up on the bed in front of me. Quietly, I dig around in my bag for my keys, then slip out the door into the night. I grit my teeth as my car starts up, imagining TJ or Jenna pulling back the curtains and seeing me sitting in the car. I've got excuses. I'm sick. I had to drive to the emergency room. Then I couldn't sleep and wanted to get a snack somewhere. They're all suspicious, but should be enough to cover my ass if things go south. I drive along the quiet road, my surroundings almost black since the moon has set. It takes me a moment to find the side road that will take me to the shore. Once I do, I see one lonely orange light glaring in the middle of the parking lot. I park away from it at the edge of the lot. It's dark here. I sit in the car for a while, wondering what I'm doing, wondering what the fuck I'm going to do. But something drives me, a feeling that if I don't do this, then the rest of my life is going to be ruined. I can't let that happen. I open the door and quickly get out. Pull out my phone and turn on the light, finding the small dirt trail that leads out into the inky blackness. The air is cool and I can smell the lake. Pretty soon I can hear it too. The soft, desolate sounds of the waves running against the thin strip of the shore. It's peaceful, but at the same time it terrifies me, and for the moment I feel like the lake is one giant living thing. It dwarfs me with its presence. A giant, all-knowing thing. It knows I'm here. I shudder and force myself to continue. I find the shoreline and the dry sand shifts under my feet as I take a right and follow the shore. I try to ignore the sounds of the lake, the feeling that it's watching me, beckoning me towards it. Finally, I come across the boulder that I'm looking for, one that Carl used to carve his drawings into. Of course it would be something Carl used. That fat piece of shit. Okay, just wow. I kneel down beside it, moving the light of my phone around until I find the drawings. I look at the super wolf etched into the rock, glaring. Then I see a glint of light above it. I shift the phone light up to see what it is. I gasp and I can't help a ragged scream from escaping my throat. A tarantula sits there, staring back at me, its cluster of eyes shining back in the darkness. I stumble back in the sand and fall, sitting down hard and causing my teeth to clack together. I scramble back up. I look around for a rock and quickly find one. When I turn back around and lift the light, the spider is gone. I look around for a while, in case it just moved around, maybe on the ground closer to me. I don't see anything though, and I throw the rock at the lake, cursing the damn thing. Then I kneel down and look at the spot between the rocky ground and the boulder. It takes a few moments and I have to get real close, looking deeper into the crevice, and then there's a glint of what looks like metal. I start to dig, first with my bare hands, then with the help of the flat rock lying nearby. I'm sweating and gasping by the time I pull the thing free. It looks like an old lunchbox. I shine a light on it and can barely make out what looks like a cartoon dragon. I open it and pull out the note. I read it. In a fit of rage, I tear the stupid thing in half, throwing it on the ground. You fucker. I hiss it out through my teeth, then pull out the piece of paper that had taken out one of Jenna's notebooks along with the pen. Yo, what did the note say? I write for a moment, using the old lunchbox's flat surface. When I'm done, I drop it into the box, then wedge the box into the crevice, covering it up with the loose dirt I'd moved. I pack it down, then stand back up. Thinking twice, I pick up the shredded note and stuff it into my pocket. Then I walk back up the shore and up the trail, ignoring what looks like the eye shine of tarantulas all around me. Maybe it's just the stars. I don't remember much of the drive back or the parking lot of the motel. Next thing I know, I'm standing next to the bed, glaring down at TJ, watching him sleep. Saturday. Ugh. Okay. I'm done for the night. Because I've been going for just over 2 hours, I believe. But yeah. Holy shit. What the fuck did the note say? I doubt we're ever going to find out, but we already know the truth and shit. So, yeah. I'm gonna get off here, so stay safe and have a good night.